Chapter 26. Angel, who has no moral sense, and the demons decided to join forces to eradicate all the Nephilim. There is only one devil whose ideas are different from everyone else's, and she is Lilith. Lilith was domineering and showed her disapproval through actions. You beasts want to kill my children, so go ahead and die. Lilith went crazy and killed all the angels and demons in sanctuary except Angel Inaris. Angel Inarius, who was left alive, was frightened by Lilith. He didn't expect that this little devil sister who was usually very gentle to him would go crazy and be so terrifying. Inaris, who was extremely insecure, did not allow anything to go beyond his control, so he banished Lilith to the void. After that, Inarius made a fierce operation on the World Stone that constituted Sanctuary. The World Stone is the foundation of the world of Sanctuary. By analogy, it can be regarded as the root of the Moon World, which can represent the law of the world. Inarius's purpose in adjusting the World Stone was to weaken the Nephilim living in Sanctuary and seal their Nephilim power. Under Inaris's control, the descendants of the Nephilim in Sanctuary will become worse with each generation. It is foreseeable that within a few thousand years, the reborn Nephilim will no longer be Nephilim and will be completely destroyed. Become mortal. Time flies, thousands of years have passed. The Nephilim have degenerated across the board, and even today, only a few of the original Nephilim are still alive. Today's world has been occupied by the descendants of the Nephilim, and these descendants have degenerated into mortals. The mortals established a country in Sanctuary, and the country's name was Kaijian. In this country, there is a very thoughtful magician. He may have wanted to learn from the Nidame Hokage to develop a filthy reincarnation technique to summon the souls of the dead. However, he failed. Not only did his magic fail to the souls of the dead were recalled to the world, but accidentally opened the passage between Sanctuary and Hell. As soon as this passage appeared, the demons in Hell finally realized that besides high-level heaven and burning Hell, there are other worlds. The big guys in Hell also held a meeting on this matter, and finally came to a conclusion. Anyway, we can't win the high-level paradise for a while, so we might as well go to Sanctuary first and take the people over there. Humanity has drawn into our camp. I believe that with the addition of humans, we will be more able to deal with those birdmen. The big bosses among the demons began to discuss how to make humans willingly submit to them, so Mephisto came up with an idea and convinced the other demons. Mephisto sent his son, Lilith's brother named Lucian, to come to Sanctuary. Lucian founded a sect called the Tritheism in Sanctuary. The gods promoted in the Tritheism are not Mephisto, Bala, and Diablo of the three Mephistos of Hell, but the vests of the three Mephistos. Morpheus, Bala, and Dialon. As the son of Mephisto, Lucian has great power. As long as he shows his power in front of mortals, the mortals will have the idea of, wow, this is so powerful, I want to join the three gods. Under this circumstance, the tritheist cult grew rapidly. In the 60th year of the establishment of the tritheism, Inaris, one of the builders of Sanctuary, finally discovered that his home had been stolen. In order to deal with this, he could only follow the trend and establish a sect. So the Illuminati sect was born. Inarius, as the founder of Sanctuary, tells the world, I am your heavenly father. Inaris is an angel, and he seems to be great and upright enough. In addition, he is indeed the heavenly father of Sanctuary, so a large number of mortals have joined his Illuminati religion and began to believe in him. However, the Illuminati religion was founded 60 years later than the tritheist religion, so the Illuminati religion certainly does not have as many followers as the tritheist religion. While the two major sects were preaching and smearing each other, the Virgin Lilith, who had been exiled to the void for thousands of years, once again returned to the place of refuge. She came back quietly. Lilith turned into a very beautiful blonde girl, whose pseudonym was Lilia. Lilith naturally wants to do something when she comes back. Lilith plans to find people among humans who still have the power of the Nephilim, help them awaken the power of the Nephilim, and use their hands to destroy the three gods and the light god, and kill Inaris, her old friend. He and his demon brother Lucian have all been driven out of Sanctuary. He is also preparing to awaken the power of the Nephilim in all humans and use the hands of humans to completely end the eternal war between the high heaven and the burning hell. The above is the game background of this copy. As a player, the time you arrive is the time when Lilith has just returned to Sanctuary. The location where the player landed is a town in the kingdom of Kaijian. Evan, Wanda, and Gwen arrived in an idyllic and beautiful country town. This copy does not introduce the background story to the players, and players need to explore everything by themselves. During exploration, players will gradually understand the background of the world. Players can also choose not to participate in the story and simply live in this instance. Anyway, the duration of this instance is very long. It is worth mentioning that many NPCs in this dungeon have supernatural powers, but players cannot learn these powers from those NPCs, because they are really powers in the game and cannot be used in reality, so players cannot use them in the game. Unable to learn. The purpose of Evan and others coming here was for vacation and practice, so they did not explore the background of the story here. But just because they don't explore, doesn't mean Tony Stark and Pepper Potts don't explore. Yes, Tony and Pepper have also entered this dungeon, but because it is a dungeon, as long as they do not team up with Evan and others to enter, the player and the player's game dungeon will be in different phases, and will not meet each other, nor will they influence each other. Tony and Pepper took this trip to the Dark Dungeon as an adventure. While taking the adventure, they investigated the story background of this dungeon. Before entering this dungeon, both of them had read the dungeon introduction. There was no introduction to the dungeon in the introduction. It only said that the unrealistic dungeon was fictional and the stories in it would not happen in reality. Everything here has no reference to the real world, it is just a pure game. Chapter 27. Tony and Pepper discovered that the dark copy is a medieval magical background. Through inquiries with villagers in the village, the two learned that there was supernatural power in this copy, such as the magic of the three gods religion and the divine magic of the Illuminati religion. It seems that ordinary people can learn too. Tony and Pepper don't know yet that as players, they can't learn this. They also thought that they could learn some occult skills from here. In order to learn supernatural powers, the two disguised themselves as devout believers and successfully infiltrated the Illuminati sect. By reading various classics within the Illuminati religion, they learned more about the background of the copy world. According to classic records, this world is called Sanctuary and was created by Inarius, the Heavenly Father. Inarius is the angel and the creator of this world. However, there is no information about Virgin Lilith recorded in the classics because that information was artificially erased. So Tony and Pepper don't know about Lilith. The two stayed in the Illuminati cult for 2 months before finally discovering that players could not learn any supernatural abilities in this dungeon world. Disappointed, they used some tricks to successfully break away from the Church of Light and began traveling around the world. During their travels, they learned about some unrecorded contents from some unofficial legends that were not recorded in church classics. This world was not created by Inarius alone, but jointly by Inarius and the demon Lilith. Inarius is the father and Lilith is the Holy Mother. But Our Lady was exiled by her Heavenly Father. The devil is the Virgin. This setting is simply a slap in God's face. Tony Stark couldn't help but complain. This is just a fictional game, you don't have to take it seriously. Little Pepper was speechless. But everything here is so real that people will be involved in it unconsciously. The demon Lilith is the Virgin, but she was exiled by the Heavenly Father Inarius, and the point in time we are at is thousands of years after Lilith was exiled. I guess Lilith may return at this time point, and only in this way can the story of the copy unfold. Tony Stark analyzed. So what? So, we go to find Lilith. Although she is a demon, she is also the Virgin of Sanctuary. Only by finding her can we understand the complete background of the story and unfold the plot of the dungeon. In the next month, the two continued to travel until this day, they returned to the village where they first came. In a tavern here, they met a beautiful girl named Lilia. The other party is well dressed and has a noble temperament. She seems to be an aristocratic lady. Tony Stark loves to seduce beautiful women, and he goes there to seduce them in the name of gathering information. Pepper rolled her eyes. If this wasn't a game world, Pepper would definitely go crazy. But the person Tony hooked up with was an NPC, so that would be fine. Anyway, players can't do anything to NPCs because the game prohibits players from doing so. In this way, the two got acquainted with Lilia. After that, the two teamed up with Lilia and traveled together. During the trip, Tony and Pepper gradually discovered that Lilia was special. There is no doubt that Lilia is a very mysterious girl. There are many peculiarities about her. For example, she never sleeps at night, her wounds heal instantly, her eyes turn red on full moon nights, and she never shows fear when she encounters danger. These abnormalities were noticed by Stark and Pepper. Until this day, Tony Stark finally couldn't help but ask Lilia the question in his heart, "Miss Lilia, you are not an ordinary person." Lilia did not answer directly, but asked, "Who do you think I am?" Tony Stark thought of the background of the story and the similarity between Lilia's name and the Virgin Lilith, and tentatively said, "Are you, the Virgin Lilith?" "How did you guess that?" Lilia's words acquiesced to Tony Stark's guess. Tony Stark and Pepper Potts were shocked. Unexpectedly, the noble girl who had been traveling with them for several months turned out to be the legendary Virgin Lilith. "It's very dramatic. Before I met you, Pepper and I had been investigating the history of Sanctuary. In order to understand the history, we even got involved with the Illuminati religion and looked through the books there, but only the story of Heavenly Father Inaris was recorded there, but there was no record at all about the Virgin Lilith. At that time, we did not know the existence of Virgin Lilith. Later, Xiao Jiao and I left the Guangming cult and began to travel around the world. Through some unofficial legends, we gradually restored part of the original truth. According to legend, the Virgin Lilith and the Heavenly Father Inaris were originally a couple. Later, for unknown reasons, the Heavenly Father exiled the Virgin. Since he is in exile, it means that the Virgin is still alive. And you, who show a specialness that ordinary people don't have, are also called Lilia. This name is so similar to the Virgin Mary's real name that it's hard not to make associations with it." Lilia applauded. "Stark, you are very smart. It's a pity that you two are not Nephilim. Otherwise, you would have become a fire to awaken humans around the world and ignite their Nephilim power." "What are Nephilim?" Stark had never heard of the term. Lilia began to tell the two about the true history of the past. He started from the eternal battle between Angel and the Devil and continued until his own exile. Pepper asked, "Is the war between Angel and the Devil not over yet?" "Yes, I originally had a plan. I wanted to use the Nephilim here in Sanctuary to completely end the eternal war and let the world usher in true peace. But those who followed me and Inaris to Sanctuary, the angels and demons of the earth, are afraid of the power of the Nephilim and want to exterminate the Nephilim. For the sake of the plan, I can only take action and kill all the angels and demons in Sanctuary except Inaris. But Inaris didn't understand my ideals. He was afraid of me and exiled me to the void while I wasn't paying attention. It wasn't until now, thousands of years later, that I found my way back." Lilia looked sad. "Your ideals are great, not as great as a devil." Tony Stark complained and decided to participate in the plot. "Although Pepper and I are not Nephilim, we can help you. So does the little Pepper." In this way, the three of them embarked on a journey. The 5 members of S.H.I.E.L.D. also formed a team to enter the Dark Dungeon, but when they discovered that this was just a pure game dungeon that had nothing to do with the real world, they did not waste time here and went to conquer other dungeons. Stephen Strange and Christine Palmer also entered this dungeon. They were just here for sightseeing. Evan, Gwen, and Wanda settled in the Dark Dungeon. They also spent money to contract some land here and grow some fruits and vegetables. They lived a comfortable life. In his spare time, Evan taught the 8 magic skills to Gwen and Wanda, and the 3 of them practiced together. Days like this are not boring. Chapter 28. What is the difference between the time flow rate in the game copy and the real world? To calculate the answer to this question, you first need to get the formula. Press Settings. A day in the real world and a year passes in the game public area. 1 day in the game public area, 1 month can pass in the dungeon world. To sum up, we arrive at the formula. 1 day in the outside world equals 365 days in the public area equals 365 days in the copy x 30 days. In other words, if 1 day passes in the outside world, 30 years will pass in the game copy. Evan, Wanda, and Gwen have stayed in this dungeon world since they entered the Dark Dungeon. They do not participate in the plot of the dungeon and just live their lives and practice. In the real world, for the next week, the 3 of them will do their own things during the day, and at night they will enter the game world and soak in the dark copy. In a few days in reality, the 3 of them spent more than 100 years in the game copy world. Through this period of practice, the 3 of them have perfected all 8 magical skills. It is worth mentioning that after this period of practice, Wanda's origin magic power has been further awakened, and it is now comparable to the level she used to defeat Thanos in the end game. Evan estimates that when Wanda's origin magic power further awakens, she will be able to transform into the Scarlet Witch form. Today, the abilities of the 3 people who have left seclusion have been qualitatively improved in all aspects. Not saying that you are invincible, but just protecting yourself is definitely enough. While Evan and others were practicing in seclusion in the Dark Dungeon, Tony and Pepper also spent many years in this dungeon. With the help of Tony Stark and Pepper Potts, Lilia, the somewhat resourceful idiot in the original book, became so amazing that she not only exiled her Heavenly Father Inaris from Sanctuary, but also destroyed her brother's tritheist cult. Destroyed and drove the other party back to hell. Later, Tony, Pepper Potts, and Lilia came to the World Stone. By studying this thing, Tony Stark and Lilia came up with a device that combined magic and technology to drive the World Stone. To change the rules of the world of Sanctuary. The rules of Sanctuary changed, causing the mortals living there to awaken to the power of the Nephilim one after another. Later, Lilia led the Nephilim into the high-level heaven and burning hell. Stark and Pepper act as dog-headed strategists, making various suggestions. In the end, Lilia fulfilled her dream and completely ended the Eternal War. Stark and Pepper successfully cleared the Dark Dungeon and received a large number of points as rewards. Let's move forward in time. When the 5 players of S.H.I.E.L.D passed the Thor 1 instance, they learned that Norse mythology was not fiction, but had real prototypes. It was shocking that the myth was reflected in reality. After clearing this dungeon, Nick Fury has many ideas. He plans to send people to New Mexico to contact the other party in 2011 when Thor is exiled to Earth, try to win over the other party, and establish diplomatic relations with Asgard. After this, they entered the Captain America 1 copy. Who cares most about this copy is Phil Coulson, a die-hard fan of Captain America, and Sharon Carter, who grew up listening to the story of Captain America. They can't wait to get in and participate in the story of Captain America. The story of this copy takes place in the past, telling the story of Steve Rogers and Bucky's comradeship, and how Steve became Captain America. Regarding Captain America, as everyone knows, he is dead. But when everyone cleared the dungeon, saw the final Easter egg, and saw Captain America appearing in modern society, they were no longer calm. Steve Rogers is still alive. Phil Coulson was so excited that he almost twitched. Sharon Carter's cheeks flushed with excitement. Nick Fury's eyes suddenly brightened, and the core of the Avengers plan was there. Only Natasha Romanoff and Maria Hill were calmer. Everyone has made a decision. Since the captain is still alive, they must find him. But don't rush this matter. Let's clear the Avengers dungeon first. Fury is no stranger to the title of Avengers, because he has been planning to form Avengers for a long time. Fury speculated that the story in this copy of Avengers might be related to his plan. The 5 members of S.H.I.E.L.D formed a team and entered this instance. After entering the dungeon and experiencing the plot, Fury confirmed his suspicion. Moreover, Fury also saw NPC Captain America in it. Through communication with NPC Captain America, Fury and everyone learned that Captain America has been frozen somewhere in the Arctic Ocean these years. After obtaining the coordinates, Fury immediately asked Phil Coulson to lead the team to find Captain America at that coordinate. Phil Coulson took the order, went offline directly, and went to perform the task. Fury and others continue this copy. The story in the copy made Fury very concerned. Thor's brother Loki actually came to Earth to snatch the Tesseract and led an army of aliens to invade Earth. This is such a big crisis. Fortunately, they knew about this in advance and were able to prepare accordingly. In the dungeon, Loki used the Tesseract to open the portal to attract aliens to invade the Earth. If S.H.I.E.L.D didn't study the Tesseract, wouldn't it attract Loki? This morning, when Evan, Wanda, and others went offline, Evan heard the system prompt. Ding! Host, you have a problem. Evan was slightly startled. Is the system talking to itself? This is the first time this has happened. Got a problem with yourself? What's wrong with me? Ding! Since the host stays in the game world for a long time, he is too addicted and dependent. According to the judgment of this system, this behavior is not conducive to the healthy growth of the host. In order to alleviate the host's game dependence, the Super Game Development System will be offline from now until the beginning of 2013. You can't enter the game world during this period, right? Yes. Evan was speechless. At the same time, all players received system announcements. This announcement was not sent by Evan, but by the system. Game announcement: the closed beta phase of the game is now over, and internal testing will be prepared next. The estimated preparation time is 5 years. Within 5 years, players will not be able to log into the game. Players who received this announcement were shocked. Why did you stop taking the service for 5 years when everything was fine? But the game system goes its own way and does not depend on everyone's will. Anyway, the game is off. In the next 5 years, no one, including Evan, will be able to enter the game again. Chapter 29. According to the timeline of the Marvel movie universe, from 2008 to 2012, the stories of Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Thor 1, and Avengers will take place during this period. Evan has spoiled these stories to Tony Stark, Nick Fury and others through the Marvel superhero game. The future plot will definitely change. For example, the stories of Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2 should never happen. In other words, it has already happened in advance. Now, all we have to do is wait for Thor's arrival in 2011. It can be expected that S.H.I.E.L.D will definitely have greater participation in this event. S.H.I.E.L.D. At the moment, Nick, Maria, Natasha Romanoff, and Sharon were gathering together to discuss something. The issues discussed are related to Tesseract. That is, whether to conduct research on Tesseract, develop powerful weapons, and figure out how Tesseract opens space wormholes. As S.H.I.E.L.D. director, Nick Fury stopped being dictatorial because he couldn't make up his mind, so this meeting took place. Studying the Tesseract may lead to alien invasion. But leaving it alone without studying it felt like it would be a waste of resources. You know, Tesseract can open wormholes. If the research results can be achieved, humans will be able to easily leave their home planet and head towards the Sea of Stars. It can be said that danger and opportunity coexist. Maria Hill strongly opposed research on the Tesseract, echoed by Natasha Romanoff and Sharon. After this discussion, Nick Fury temporarily gave up his research plan on Tesseract. From 2008 to early 2011, nothing major happened in these 3 years. If anything happened, it would be that Captain America Steve Rogers was unearthed 3 years early and is now living a retired life. It is worth mentioning that Captain America's neighbor is none other than Sharon Carter, who was sent by Nick Fury to monitor and protect Steve Rogers. Sharon Carter pretended to be a nurse, became a neighbor of Captain America, and got acquainted with Captain America. The two seemed to have a tendency to get together. During this time, because no one could enter the game, the physical ages of Evan, Wanda, and Gwen increased, growing from 15 to 18 years old. Physical growth is more reflected in height, which does not mean that their youth cheat has failed. After the physical growth period is over, their appearance age will become constant. After all, they are all practicing Lyoku immortal thieves. Wanda and Gwen, who look 18 years old, have become slimmer and more beautiful. A certain harem man said that he was very happy. During this time, Wanda and Gwen graduated from high school and entered college. The school the two of them attended was also considered a well-known university. Named Empire State University. The university is located on the outskirts of New York City. If you drive there, it only takes half an hour if there is no traffic jam on the road. Wanda and Gwen go to college and live on campus, only coming back on weekends. Evan has not been idle either. He has started his own business in the past 3 years. He opened a film and television company on an entire floor of an office building in Manhattan, New York. The name of this film and television company is Marvel Pictures. Evan wrote the script himself, formed a crew, auditioned actors, and then made the movie. In the first year of its establishment, the company produced 3 movies, namely Star Wars, The Phantom Menace, Star Wars, Attack of the Clones, and Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith. The Star Wars movies shot by Evan have cultivated a large number of Star Wars fans. It is worth mentioning that the person who played Queen Padme Amidala in the Star Wars prequel trilogy was not Jane Foster, but the robot lady Abigail Dorothy. Abigail Dorothy not only played the role of Queen Amidala as an actress, she also worked as an editor responsible for editing the film. As an artificial intelligence robot, Abigail can complete this job very well and complete high special effects at zero cost. Each of the Star Wars prequel trilogy produced by Evan has achieved huge amounts of success, earning billions in net profit. This rate of making money is almost catching up with Miss Abigail's rate of making money by cheating and stock trading. After tasting the sweetness, Evan fell into what outsiders saw as a state of madness and began to write scripts crazily. However, he was only responsible for investing and writing scripts, and did not want to continue to guest direct. Without him, it would be too tiring. He first wrote several scripts for the Hunger Games, and then successively wrote scripts for the Resident Evil series, Harry Potter series, the Matrix series, Pirates of the Caribbean series, the Fast and the Furious series, Shape-Shifting King Kong series, DC movie series script. His typing speed is very fast and he can often write a script in 10 minutes. When all the scripts were written, Evan printed them out one by one and bound them. Then he called his own employees and asked them to hire directors from outside and recruit 10 directors back. At the same time, employees are also asked to form a crew, and there will be 10 crews. Evan wants these movies to be shot at the same time so that his company can produce new movies efficiently. When the directors and actors arrived one after another, 10 crews started at the same time. This incident even made the news that year and became a hot topic. It was reported in the news that Marvel Film and Television Company has formed 10 crews at the same time, recruited 10 well-known directors and more well-known actors, made a one-time investment of $3 billion, and started shooting 10 movies at the same time. This incident caused widespread discussion in the entertainment industry. Generally speaking, the filming of a movie can be completed in 4 to 5 months as long as there are no problems. What really takes time is the post-production of the film. But Evan was assisted by Miss Abigail. Miss Abigail is an artificial intelligence robot. She took over the post-production, which was very efficient and cost-free. As the movies were being filmed and Abigail was editing the movie, Evan's Marvel Films began to promote the movie non-stop. While the film was being edited and promoted, the crew continued to work on filming sequels to those series of films. Evan wants his company to produce a new movie every month and completely conquer Hollywood. So, from 2009 to now, Marvel Films and Television has entered a state of madness. After Resident Evil 1 was released, Harry Potter 1 was released, Harry Potter 1 was released after The Matrix 1 was released, The Matrix 1 was released after Pirates of the Caribbean 1 was released, followed by Fast and Furious 1, Shape-Shifting King Kong 1, The Hunger Games 1, and DC series. Superman 1, Batman 1, Wonder Woman 1, and so on. After the first part of the series of movies has been released, the second part will be released immediately. One movie per month is irresistible, every one of them is a hit and eye-catching. Marvel Studios is going crazy and making money like crazy. The major Hollywood film and television companies are shrouded in the shadow of Marvel Films. Evan took over Hollywood. When Stark first learned about Evan's capture of Hollywood, he called Evan and teased a new entertainment tycoon. At the same time, he was also curious about how Evan managed to achieve such success. Evan's answer is that the script is well written. Wanda and Gwen, who were in college, also knew that Evan had opened a film and television company. At first, they thought Evan just wanted to have fun, but unexpectedly, he actually started a career and not only became an entertainment tycoon, but also became the shadow of major Hollywood film and television companies. It's very exaggerated. Wanda and Gwen have thought more than once about whether to make a cameo in a movie shot by a male film company and become a star. However, this is just a thought. Being a star or something is not their pursuit. As Evan became famous, Gwen's father, George Stacy, also learned about the excellence of his daughter's boyfriend. While he was satisfied with Evan, he also had a lot of worries. Can Gwen really hold Evan? Chapter 30. Time has come to the second half of 2011. If nothing else happens, Thor will be exiled to Earth in the next few days. Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., sent a large number of agents to New Mexico, and also sent people to secretly monitor Dr. Jane Foster, Professor Eric Hilwig, and graduate student Daisy Lewis. Now, Jane, Eric, Daisy and others have gone to New Mexico because they want to conduct astronomical observations. Nick Fury, who has been monitoring them, knows that Thor 1's story is about to unfold. Not only Nick Fury and others are paying attention to this matter, but Tony Stark is also using his own methods to monitor Jane Foster and others. After learning that Jane Foster and the others went to New Mexico, they knew that Thor was about to come. Earth. Tony Stark is ready to join in the fun. Pepper was also quite curious about this matter. As the female president of Stark Industries, she took a rare leave and went to New Mexico with Tony Stark. Wanda and Gwen were very interested in participating in Thor's story, so they simply hooked up with Evan, and the three of them teamed up to drive the RV they bought and drove to New Mexico on a road trip. Iron Man took Pepper and landed in this small town in New Mexico. What's more troublesome is that because little Pepper was held by Iron Man and flew in the sky, little Pepper's hair was blown by the wind like a chicken coop, and her legs and feet were weak. As soon as Iron Man put her down, she almost collapsed. Fall to the ground. The disheveled little Pepper complained while arranging his hair. This scene is inexplicably joyful. The two met Natasha Romanoff in this town. It's not surprising to see the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent here. Tony Stark started teasing Natasha Romanoff. I can return this sentence to you intact. Natasha Romanoff rolled her eyes. The three of them chatted about Thor's imminent arrival. At this time, Evan, Wanda, and Gwen also came to the town. They just got out of the RV and before they walked a few steps, they saw Iron Man, Black Widow, and Pepper Potts from a distance. They walked over and Gwen greeted several people, Miss Pepper, Miss Natasha Romanoff, Mr. Stark, long time no see. Star and others looked at the three people walking towards each other holding hands with strange expressions. Tony Stark gave Evan a kindred look. Little Pepper said with a subtle expression, "You three, shouldn't you be together? We don't do polygamy here. We have spent hundreds of years together in the game world and have a very deep relationship." Wanda said with a smile. "I just accidentally boarded a pirate ship." Gwen complained to herself. Today, many outsiders came to this small town in New Mexico, which made it particularly lively. There's Evan's family, Tony Stark, and Pepper Potts, S.H.I.E.L.D, Natasha Romanoff and Phil Coulson, and several non-famous S.H.I.E.L.D agents. Evan, Wanda, Gwen, Tony, and others chatted for a while, then separated from a few others and went to a fast food restaurant in the town. They ordered some junk food and chatted while eating. Thor's story will only happen tomorrow. Today, the three of them wandered around and spent the night in the RV night. The curtains in the RV were all drawn. The lights inside the RV are bright. Evan, Wanda, and Gwen were sitting on the sofa in the RV, watching the car TV in the RV. This car TV is 70 inches and has a resolution of 8K. On the roof of the RV, there is a satellite antenna that can automatically adjust the direction, allowing the car TV to receive satellite TV stations, and it is also the kind with all paid channels. There were snacks and beer on the table in front of the three of them. They ate, drank, talked, and watched. The atmosphere of RV life is full. The next morning, the curtains of the RV were drawn open. Wanda plays the role of cook, making breakfast in the RV kitchen. Gwen was there to help. Evan turned on the car TV and watched the morning news. After breakfast, a few people got out of the RV and started wandering around the town together. Wandering near the hotel, they saw Jane Foster, Professor Hillwig, and Daisy Lewis, who were loading things into a van as if they were about to set off. Not long after, they met Jane Foster and others and left the town in a van. Everyone knows that they will come back. Just wait here. Like them, there are also people from S.H.I.E.L.D who choose to wait. You guys talk first, I'll go for a while. Evan turned around, walked into the RV, closed all the curtains here, and ran the shadow spell in this closed place. The shadows in the RV seemed to come alive and converged on Evan's hands. He is using shadow conjuration, simulating any door in the conjuration system. Any door is a teleportation magic. This magic has no teleportation distance limit and can be teleported to any impressive place in the same plane. Evan wanted to try if he could use the impression of Asgard from the Marvel movie Asgard he had seen in his previous life to activate any spell and open the door to Asgard. Impression positioning is easy to succeed. Evan's eyes lit up. This means that Evan can teleport to Asgard at any time if he wants to. Evan activated the magic. In front of him, an ancient door appeared out of thin air. Maybe there is some barrier on Asgard, which makes the location where the portal connects a bit special. Evan stepped forward and opened the door without hesitation. On the other side of the door is Asgard, but the location is different from the point where Evan located it. Evan walked into it and stepped into the land of Asgard. Here the sea of clouds rolls and rainbows fill the sky. Hazy dreams fill the horizon. Evan, who landed here, was thinking about what area of Asgard this would be. At this time, a girl holding a flower basket walked out of the rolling sea of fog and came to Evan. The woman has flaxen hair, tied in double ponytails, and is wearing a beautiful palace dress. She has an outstanding temperament. But in Evan's perception of Deluo Cave, the other party always felt less like a real person and more like a physical phantom. Is it some kind of magical creation? This place is Fence Errol, the palace of the Sea of Fog. Outsiders, please leave quickly. The woman spoke softly in the hazy mist. Her voice is soft, like a breeze blowing on your face. Just hearing it makes you feel relaxed. It's very mysterious. Chapter 31. Fenthalil, the Palace of the Sea of Mists. Evan has heard of this place name. It is the palace where the fairy queen Frigga lives. I'll leave right away. What do you call the girl? Evan asked the woman. I'm Fulla. The woman introduced herself. Evan knows the name Fulla. When Evan awakened his past life memories and learned that he had traveled to the Marvel world, he took the time to read a lot of Norse mythology-related stories on the internet. In the Norse mythology story, Fulla is also famous. There are two theories about Fulla. The first version said that she was the maid of the fairy queen Frigga. The second version says that the fairy queen Frigga never had a maid, and the maids around her are actually the personifications of the fairy queen Frigga. Evan feels that the correct answer should be the second one. Although the Fulla in front of her looks very real and has an entity, under Evan's perception using the cave view, it is too ethereal. This can only mean that the other party is not a real person. If Fulla is Frigga's magically separated personality, then Frigga's other maids may also be Frigga's incarnations. I remember that in myths and legends, Frigga had many maids, such as Fulla of fertility, Helen the guardian, Gaina the wind lady, Lufin the love, Lin the truth, El the medicine, Farah the oath, Val the true, and Snotr the wisdom. Beautiful Freya, West Germanic mythology. The Fulla in front of her was obviously the goddess of fertility, Fulla. Most likely also the personification of Frigga. Frigga has so many incarnations, and Evan also felt the life essence from the incarnation of Fulla in front of him. In other words, Frigga's personification can exist independently. So the question is, in the story of Thor 2, Frigga was killed by the Dark Elf. Is she really dead? When the body dies, the personification with the life essence will not die together, but will continue to exist. If the personification is gathered together, can Frigga be resurrected in place? But in the plot of the Marvel movie universe, Frigga died and never appeared again. After analysis, Evan came to a conclusion. Frigga may have faked her death and escaped. According to the myth, Frigga was originally a member of the Vanir, but once upon a time, Odin led the Asafs to launch a war against the Vanir and kidnapped Frigg as his wife. After that, Frigga became Odin's wife. To say how much Frigga loves Odin is not necessarily true. After all, she was snatched away to become the wife of Yazai. It would be too ridiculous to talk about love under this premise. What's more, it's probably the anger of being forced into a vow by the Overlord. Maybe Frigga has long wanted to escape Asgard. When Odin was young, Frigga did not dare to escape. She was afraid that if she escaped, Odin would destroy the Vanir in a rage. It wasn't until Odin was old and the Dark Elves invaded that Frigga finally found a chance and successfully faked her death and escaped. Based on the above analysis, the story shown in the movie is only superficial. As a witch, Frigga lives far longer than Odin and is also very tolerant. In less than a second, Evan thought a lot and thought he had discovered some subtle truth. Evan showed a friendly smile, looked at Fulla in front of him, and said, "Miss Fulla, my name is Evan. I come from Midgard. I am a half-time magician who has just come into contact with magic. I see that Miss Fulla is full of magic power, so it must not be a witch is a magician. If possible, I would like to become your teacher and learn the secrets of magic. Is that okay? People from Midgard, I advise you to leave. Once Odin's people find you in Fence Errol Palace, you won't be able to leave." Fulla frowned. The threat of death is not so scary in the pursuit of truth. Evan said. This sentence is definitely not Evan's real intention, it is just an excuse to stay. People like you who are not afraid of death for the sake of knowledge are rare, but I have seen a few in my past experience. Fulla sighed. Will you accept me as your disciple? Evan pretended to be surprised. Evan's purpose is not simply to become a disciple, she wants to have a relationship with the fairy queen Frigga. As for what you want to do to get closer to others? Is it possible that Evan still wants to fall in love with Odin and become a stepfather to Thor and Loki? Definitely not. Evan has mysophobia, but he is not that greedy. He wanted to try to see if he could incarnate one of Frigga's personalities and bring him back to be Wanda's teacher. Frigga is a witch, and Wanda is also a witch. Let Wanda learn Frigga's magic, which is a professional counterpart. If Wanda could learn Frigga's persona, one Wanda could become a bunch of Wandas with different personalities. One wife turned into a group of wives. Just thinking about it made Evan feel so happy that he wanted to ascend to heaven. I can't accept you as a disciple, but I can introduce you to a teacher. As Fulla spoke, a beautiful woman emerged from the sea of fog behind her. The other person's appearance was the same as Fulla's, they were both so beautiful, but also as ethereal as a dream. Obviously the other party is also the personification of Frigga. Who is this? Evan asked tentatively. She is my sister, Gaina. If you can pass her test, she will take you as her apprentice and teach you the secrets of magic. I'm willing to be tested. Please, look at me. Gaina said. Evan looked into her eyes. The next moment, Evan felt a strong spiritual force coming towards him, which seemed to pull Evan's spirit into an illusory world. Evan has mastered the source of the living body and cultivated it to great perfection, making him almost immune to most psychic abilities. If Evan wants to resist, Gaina's psychic power will never be able to pull Evan's consciousness away. Evan is not lacking in foresight and will definitely not let his soul be taken away, so he works hard to protect his soul. Gaina was slightly surprised when she discovered that her illusion had failed. Chapter 32. The psychic resistance is good. Although it does not meet my test, you can still pass the test. Gaina did not dwell on this issue. She said to Evan, please follow me. Evan followed Gaina. Gaina took her deep into the Palace of Mist and came to a remote house. This place is located in the deepest part of the Mist Sea barrier. Even His Majesty Odin cannot enter. You can learn magic from me here. Gaina said calmly. Earth, New Mexico. 3 hours have passed since Evan walked into the RV. Seeing that Evan hadn't come out of the RV yet, Wanda walked in, ready to see what he was doing. As soon as she entered it, she saw a high-level phantom that looked exactly like Evan suddenly appeared in front of her. This is the phantom that Evan left behind before he left, and it has been blessed with different trigger conditions and reactions. If Wanda walks into the RV first and only Wanda walks in, the higher phantom will say the following words, I'm leaving the Earth temporarily. I'm going to Asgard for a visit. I'll be back within 3 days. There's no need to worry about my safety. After saying this, the high-level phantom dissipated. Wanda was stunned, then nodded and left the RV. In the next few days, Thor's story unfolds. But the plot has been changed. When Thor came to Earth, he was first hit by a car and then stunned with an electric shock device by Daisy Lewis. After being sent to the hospital, he was watched by Gwen, Wanda, Stark, Pepper, Phil Coulson, Natasha Romanoff and others. After Thor woke up, everyone came forward to communicate with Thor. Because everyone believed that Thor was Thor and did not treat him as a madman, Thor was relatively calm. When asked why he came to Earth, Thor told everyone about his experience of being exiled. Phil Coulson patted Thor on the shoulder and comforted him, no father would really hate his child. His Majesty Odin exiled you to the Earth for some reason. This may be a test. You don't have to think too much, just let everything take its course. Hope so. Under the bail of everyone, Thor was discharged from the hospital. Thor is a man with strong limbs and a simple mind, and he is also aggressive, but he also has advantages, he is forthright and easy to get along with. Everyone is happy to make friends with a person with a simple personality. Shortly after this, Jane Foster, Eric Hilwig, and Daisy Lewis discovered something through the things they had previously photographed, so they found Thor, and the 3 of them were dumbfounded. Thor said that he was Thor in Norse mythology, so that was fine. The key was that Stark, Pepper Potts, Phil Coulson, Natasha Romanoff, Wanda, and Gwen all believed what Thor said. Only Jane Foster did not believe it. Are Stark and others abnormal, or are the 3 of them abnormal? Mjolnir's site has been taken care of by S.H.I.E.L.D. A temporary base has been established here at Hammer and many scientists have been dispatched for research. For mysterious side weapons like Mjolnir, the people at S.H.I.E.L.D. still really want to understand the characteristics. It would be best if they could imitate it. Asgard, the deepest part of the Palace of Mist. In the past few days, Evan has been staying here with Gaina, asking for advice and learning various magics from the latter. Evan discovered that Gaina's magic power was very Marvel-like, borrowing magic power from the World Tree. Evan doesn't want to use borrowed power, because borrowing power comes with a price. The magic power he uses is his own magic power. Using your own magic power to cast magic can avoid the cost of magic to the greatest extent. The first magic that Evan and Gaina learned was called the Essence of Life. This is a magic that is more like Tiger Bomb. The effect is to convert one's own vitality into life essence and infuse it into other objects. If the object being infused is a puppet, the caster can control the puppet through the life essence, regardless of distance and delay. If the life essence is instilled into the advanced phantom, Evan can control the advanced phantom regardless of distance and delay. In the same way, if the life essence is instilled into other people's bodies, it can also be used to control other people. However, the latter is time sensitive, and the life essence will be consumed in the bodies of other living beings and cannot last too long. Evan feels that this magic is somewhat similar to the spell used by female Loki to control others, but it is not exactly the same. It should be a different branch of the same magic theory. After learning this magic, Evan was ready to try the effect. He activated the Advanced Phantom. The Advanced Phantom slowly appeared in front of Evan. This phantom does not use Evan's own image, but Wanda's image. Then, Evan consumed his own life force and infused the phantom with life essence. The Advanced Phantom that has been infused with life essence is still a phantom, but it can be controlled by Evan regardless of distance and delay. In other words, even if Evan throws this Advanced Phantom to the other side of the universe, he can still control it. Although it is just a pure phantom that cannot have physical contact with the material world, this magic is still very practical. For example, Evan can throw it back to Earth. And he did. The arbitrary door was opened, and the Advanced Phantom of Wanda's image walked into the arbitrary door and returned to the small town in New Mexico on Earth. Evan sits deep in the Palace of Mist, remotely controlling the phantom and moving around the Earth. At the moment on Earth, time has entered night and Wanda and Gwen are in the RV, ready to rest. Phantom entered the RV and was immediately spotted by the two women. "Ah, Wanda, are you playing duplication?" Gwen was stunned. "This is a high-level phantom." Wanda recognized that the person in front of her who looked the same as herself was not a real person, but a magical creation. Chapter 33. Is it you, Evan? How can your Advanced Phantom use my image? Wanda was confused. "I was just testing the magic." "What magic?" Gwen came closer and reached out to touch the other person, but found that her hand penetrated the other person's body. "It looks so real, but it is a phantom that can be seen but cannot be touched. This is a magic I just learned, a magic that can control phantoms regardless of distance. I am still in Asgard at the moment, and I remotely control the phantom's activities here." Evan explained simply. Both women were surprised. Although he is far away in Asgard, he can control the phantom activities on the Earth. This magic is so powerful that it almost reaches the sky. Skipping the topic of high-level phantoms, Gwen asked about the situation over at Evan Asgard, of which she was very curious. The residence of the gods must be very grand. Evan told them about his experiences there. 2 more days passed. There is chaos in Asgard. The acting god King Loki lets the giants of Jotunheim invade Asgard. He wants to take the opportunity to kill his biological father Lauf, the king of giants of Jotunheim, so as to impress his father Odin. Thor rushed back to Asgard from Earth, killed Lauf first, and stopped Loki's conspiracy. The plot on Asgard's side hasn't changed much. Eventually, the Bifrost is shattered, Odin awakens, and Loki falls under the Bifrost and is presumed dead. Evan did not participate in this matter. He still stayed in the deepest part of the Palace of Mist Sea. Except for the fairy queen Frigga and Frigga's maids, no one in Asgard knew of Evan's existence. After this incident, Evan asked Gaina, "Teacher Gaina, I plan to go back to Midgard. Do you want to come with me?" Gaina is the personification of Frigga, who is essentially Frigga. In the past, she had no chance to leave Asgard, mainly because she couldn't use interstellar teleportation magic. If she wanted to leave, she could only go through Bifrost, but that thing belonged to Asgard's official passage, and there was no way to run away from home. Now, her student Evan has the means to smuggle her away, and she is eager to do so. Frigga's incarnation of Gaina did not reject Evan and agreed to leave with him. "And once I leave, I don't plan to come back." Leaving the incarnation of Gaina in Midgard can be regarded as a backup that Frigga left for herself. Evan opened any door and took Gaina out of Fence Errol, the Palace of Sea of Fog, and landed in the small town in New Mexico. At the moment, the S.H.I.E.L.D people, Jane Foster and others, Tony and Pepper, they had already left the town one after another. Only Wanda and Gwen are still here, waiting for Evan to return. Evan and Gaina returned to the RV parked on the edge of this small town. The two women in the RV saw Evan bringing back a blonde woman wearing a classic palace dress, and they guessed that the woman might be an Asgardian. "Evan, who is she?" Wanda asked. Evan introduced both parties to each other. Gaina's eyes were locked on Wanda. She could feel something different about Wanda. The other party, like himself, also has the blood of a witch. Evan saw her looking at Wanda and said smoothly, "Teacher Gainer, she is my girlfriend Wanda. Like you, she also has the blood of a witch. Do you think you can accept her as your disciple?" Wanda's eyes lit up when she learned that she could learn new magic again, and she immediately looked at Gaina expectantly. Although she didn't know who this Gaina was, she was probably brought back from Asgard by Evan. She must have been a goddess and must have mastered a lot of magic. Wanda is eager for new magical knowledge. Gaina could see that Wanda's amazing ability was even more outstanding than her own. Such ability is rare to see in 1,000 years. Gaina was happy to be Wanda's teacher and agreed. Gwen also wants to learn, but she can't learn Evan's magic, but maybe she can learn Asgard's magic? Gaina believed that teaching one person was teaching, and teaching a group was teaching, so she simply accepted Gwen as her disciple. Teacher Gaina, are you saying that people like me who have no magic ability can also learn magic? Gwen was excited. You have magic ability, but Evan's magic is not suitable for you. Gaina shook her head. In her perception, Gwen's soul had some kind of totem mark, which looked a bit like a spider. Gaina didn't know who this totem pointed to, but since she could be marked by this totem, it meant that Gwen had some kind of ability. The RV left the town and headed towards New York. Because there is one more person, the space in the RV seems not enough. Fortunately, there is the almighty teacher Gainer. She uses magic similar to the traceless extension spell in Harry Potter to greatly expand the space in the RV. From the outside, the RV is still the same RV, neither bigger nor smaller. But as soon as you enter the RV, you will find that the space here is much larger than it looks from the outside. It can fit half a football field. Gaina took out the bed, chairs, and bench out of thin air and put them inside as a home to prevent the place from looking empty. Although her magic doesn't seem to be destructive, in terms of practicality, it is much better than Evan's magic. Because Evan's magic only focuses on combat, not life. On the other hand, Gaina's magic can make life very convenient. A day later, they returned to New York City. After returning, Wanda stopped going to school in order to learn magic with Gaina. Instead, she asked a stand-in robot to go to Empire State University in her place, in order to get her diploma. In order to learn magic, Gwen asked Evan to make a stand-in robot for herself, so that the robot could go to school on her behalf. She herself stayed directly at Evan's house and participated in Teacher Gaina's small magic class. Chapter 34. Today, Evan's home is very lively. In addition to Evan and Wanda, two beauties also stayed here, namely Gwen and Gaina. Evan's home has 3 bedrooms, 1 master bedroom and 2 secondary bedrooms. Gwen naturally slept with Evan, and Gaina chose one of the other 2 bedrooms. The next day, after breakfast, Teacher Gaina's small magic class officially started. Evan, Wanda, and Gwen sat in a row and began to listen. The first lesson Gaina described was to teach them how to borrow magic power from the world tree. Evan and Wanda don't need to learn this. The former has a magic net to contact his body, and his body can produce magic power on its own. As long as the vitality is sufficient, the magic power will be endless. Wanda's body can also continuously breed the chaos magic power of the great demon Shadow Sithorn. Although this magic power is not so reassuring, Wanda, who has learned the 8 magic skills, is still very strong in mind and is not easily polluted by Sithorn. As long as you don't get irritated, Blacken's chances are slim. This can be regarded as avoiding the cost of magic power to the greatest extent. Borrowing magic power is useless to Evan and Wanda, but it is a must-learn basis for Gwen. Only by borrowing magic power from the world tree can she officially become a witch. In the Marvel world, although magicians and witches both practice magic, they are fundamentally different. The difference is that magicians pay more attention to knowledge and use knowledge to control magic. Witches pay more attention to bloodline. From the day they learn magic, they must constantly use magic to transform themselves, integrate magic into their bloodline, and use spells and bloodline to activate magic when needed. Some powerful witches can pass on their witch bloodline to the next generation, allowing the next generation of children to be born with magic. The power of magicians is not hereditary. They use knowledge to control power. Maybe Gwen has a spider totem, which makes her look very qualified when learning Gaina's magic. I'm afraid that in a few days, she will be able to use meditation to successfully communicate with the world tree and borrow magic power. 3 days later, Gwen successfully borrowed magic power. So Gaina's little magic class started again. Time flies, 9 months pass by in a hurry. During this period, nothing major happened. Evan's family has always been very low-key, learning magic from Gaina in a low-key manner. After 9 months, everyone has learned some magic. Wanda, who has the highest ability qualification, seems to be cheating. No matter what Gaina teaches her, she can quickly learn it. Students like Wanda can easily become a teacher's nightmare. Because soon there will be nothing to teach. Facing Wanda, Gaina didn't hide anything and almost gave everything to her. Gaina is investing in Wanda. She knows very well that with Wanda's ability, it is only a matter of time before she surpasses her. Wanda will definitely become a super strong person like the Ancient One magician in the future. Invest in Wanda when she is still weak and you will get more returns in the future. In fact, Wanda's combat power has long been superior to Gaina's. Although her origin magic power is not as complete as Awakening's, today's Wanda can definitely PK non-gem Thanos one-on-one. Compared with Wanda, Evan and Gwen's magic qualifications are much lower. The magic they have learned is less than 1/10 of what Wanda has learned. But, you can learn these slowly in the future. Anyway, the knowledge has been passed down by Gaina, and everyone will have plenty of time in the future. Just learn slowly, and you will always be able to learn everything in the future. Feeling that everyone had learned enough, Gaina was ready to say goodbye and leave. As for where to go? She didn't know where she was going, only that she wanted to stay in Midgard and remain anonymous. Several people held a farewell party for Gaina. It is worth mentioning that in the past few months, Evan's Marvel Films and Television Company has continued to produce one movie per month, becoming a shadow of Hollywood. It has continued to be popular at the box office and is making money with cramps. Today, Evan's personal wealth is as high as 70 billion, making him a super rich man. If copying continues at this rate, I am afraid that within a few years, the Marvel world will be overrun by classic movies from another world. It is truly the ultimate cultural invasion. Today, it is the middle of 2012. The events of the Battle of New York are not far away. Due to someone's spoiler, S.H.I.E.L.D did not study the Tesseract. Logically speaking, the plot should have changed, right? But accidents will always happen when they are supposed to happen. This is called Murphy's Law. Although Nick Fury did not study the Tesseract and sent additional personnel to guard the thing, he did not know that his S.H.I.E.L.D had already been infiltrated into a sieve by Hydra, and more than half of the people in the Bureau were Hydra undercover agents. Fury's every move is closely watched by Hydra. When Minister Alexander Pierce of Hydra's S.H.I.E.L.D office learned that Nick Fury attached so much importance to Tesseract, he immediately became interested. Finally, today, the Hydra agent suddenly attacked, killed all the people guarding the Tesseract, took away the Tesseract, and began to study it privately. Now, Nick Fury is investigating the matter. He wants to know who stole the Tesseract. How was the Tesseract information leaked? Is there a mole in S.H.I.E.L.D? Nick Fury thinks this should be the case, but compared with investigating the mole, the most important task now is to recover the Tesseract, otherwise an alien invasion will definitely happen. Today, Gwen plans to use the knowledge taught by Gaina to make a magic prop, which requires the use of a special plant as a material, which only grows in South America. Originally, Gwen wanted Evan to accompany her to South America, but Evan and Wanda had already left through the random door, saying they were going to Xandar to see if they could get a spaceship. Gwen had no choice but to set off on her own. She used teleportation magic and went to the tropical rainforest of South America. What Gwen didn't notice was that there were many spiders hanging on a tree beside the road in front of her. As she walked over, a spider landed on the back of Gwen's neck and bit her. It stands to reason that with Gwen's current perception, it would be impossible for her to be attacked by a spider without knowing it. But the spider totem in Gwen's body interfered with Gwen's perception, so that Gwen didn't notice this. Gwen felt a pain at the back of her neck and screamed in pain. He reached out and touched a spider. Chapter 35. Thanks to Shentianyi for your monthly ticket, Gwen was bitten by a spider and soon passed out. About 2 hours later, Gwen woke up. Did I just pass out? Gwen sat up, feeling that her physical fitness had been greatly enhanced. The enhancement mentioned here is not a temporary enhancement of the body through Qi, but a real physical enhancement. Did I have a genetic mutation? Gwen was startled. She quickly stood up and checked her body. It wasn't until he was sure that he was still himself and hadn't mutated into something else that he breathed a sigh of relief. After what happened, she was no longer in the mood to collect information and went home worried. The base camp of the Nova Corps, Xandar. Evan and Wanda passed through the random door and arrived here. Not long after they arrived, they were taken to the relevant departments for inspection and registration by security guards. Magicians in the universe are not common, but they are not uncommon. For example, there are some magicians in the Predator organization. Like the magicians of Kamartaj, they can open portals with golden and red sparks. Evan and Wanda arrived on Xandar out of thin air and were detected by the equipment scattered here. The registration process went smoothly. The staff who registered them confirmed that the two were not wanted criminals and found that they were relatively rare magicians in the universe. Based on the principle of rare things being more valuable, they followed the usual rules. Issued temporary visas to the two of them, valid for 1 month. With this visa, they can stay in Xandar for 1 month. If your visa expires, you will need to spend money to renew it or leave. The base camp of the Nova Corps, or the Xandar Star Corps, is still very receptive to outsiders. If this were replaced by the Earth, if any aliens dared to come alone, they would be captured and sliced into pieces. If you want to buy a spaceship, you must have credit points here. In this place where aliens are everywhere and technology is extremely advanced, it is not easy to make money. Wanda held a general knowledge book on Xandar in her hand, while said to Evan while watching. I'm not planning on spending money on it. Evan shrugged. Do you want to buy it for 0 yuan? No, I plan to summon Abigail here and let her learn relevant technologies from the network here. After that, we go back and build our own spaceship. It doesn't need to be how advanced the spaceship is. As long as the basic navigation function is okay, the rest we can use magic to enchant it and make a magical spaceship that combines magic and science. It seems interesting. Wanda became interested. It's fun just thinking about building a magic ship with your own hands. Miss Robot was summoned from Earth to Xandar across space by Evangelist Evan. Lets it connect to the internet here. But Abigail said, my network port is not compatible with the wireless network here. I'll figure it out. A group of 3 people came to a nearby electronics mall, and Evan bartered a data terminal with a magic prop he had made casually. A data terminal is, to put it bluntly, a thing used for surfing the internet. It is not much different from the concept of a mobile phone. With a data terminal, you can freely browse the private network in the Xandar Star Corps, Nova Corps, area. Evan found some free technical information about network ports from the internet. This kind of free technical information published on the internet is outdated, but it can be used. Evan is a quick learner and it didn't take long for him to master this technique. After that, Evan used his 8 magical skills to debug Abigail's mechanical structure and added a new wireless network port to it. Now Abigail can connect to Xandar's private network. Through private networks, Abigail began to learn all the technologies that were freely disclosed here. Although these free technologies here on Xandar are all backward technologies that have been eliminated for countless years, it depends on who you compare with. Compared with interstellar civilization, they are naturally behind. But if you want to put these technologies on the Earth, it will be fine. It belongs to future black technology. While Abigail was studying online, she entered follow mode and followed Evan and Wanda. Evan and Wanda visited the scenery together and experienced the alien customs. Thanks to the special nature of the Xandar Interstellar Core responsible for maintaining security in the Andromeda Nebula area, aliens from all major cosmic civilizations in the Andromeda Galaxy can be seen in this place. They spent the next few days traveling here. Miss Abigail, who followed the two of them, has been studying technical information that is freely available on the internet here. Until the evening 5 days later. Abigail said to the two, I have mastered all the free technical information published on the internet. Is there technology for spacecraft? Evan asked it. Yes, including but not limited to ecological cycle technology, vacuum energy technology, cellular wormhole transition technology, basic force field shield technology, interstellar non-delay communication technology, full-band signal transceiver technology, food synthesis technology, and more advanced 3D printing technology. Abigail rattled off 1,000 technologies that could be used in spacecraft. The key technologies are only energy and cellular wormhole jump. With these 2 key technologies, spacecraft traveling in the universe will not be a problem. When the game world opens again next year, let's build a spaceship in it. Okay. Evan and his party left Xandar and returned to Earth. When Gwen saw the 2 people coming back, she quickly told them the strange thing that happened to her. After hearing this, Evan used magic to check Gwen's body. Hey, just check it if you want. Don't touch it randomly. If you want to touch it, I'll let you touch it as much as you want at night. I'm doing a very serious inspection, don't move around. I think you are just acting like a gangster. Gwen complained. Soon, the inspection was completed, and Evan was thoughtful. Is there nothing wrong with my body? Gwen asked nervously. If I'm not wrong, there has been something called a spider totem in your body since you were born. That thing is related to a multi-universe super life form, and the totem represents that super life form's favor for you. In this case, as long as you are bitten by a spider, there is a high probability of awakening super abilities, such as super strength that is so powerful that it is impossible to count, spider telepathy that can perceive danger, and agility that is far beyond ordinary people. Chapter 36. What is that super life form you are talking about? Gwen asked slightly worriedly. His name is Master Weaver. He is considered to be in existence in the Order camp. The spider totem is his power spread across the multi-universe. Next, Evan told Gwen everything he knew. Gwen didn't know whether she should be happy or helpless. Logically speaking, she should be happy after gaining a new ability. If Gwen were just a normal person, she would indeed be happy. But she was not. She had already become a master before that, not only mastered the 8 magic techniques and 6 styles, but also mastered the power of magic. Now that she has the spider ability, it is the icing on the cake at most. This will not have a qualitative change in Gwen's ability, but it will put her in the sight of the Weaver Master. It is really difficult to judge between gains and losses. Evan hugged her and comforted, at least this is not a bad thing. As far as Evan knows, multi-universe existences seem to be loyal to spreading power in the multi-universe. For example, Sithorn, the Great Demon, spreads power in most Marvel universes. Most of these powers are in Wanda's body in each universe, making Wanda the Scarlet Witch. Some of the powers are also stored in the Book of Darkness. Another example is the Phoenix in the first firmament period of the original universe. He also has power dispersed in many Marvel universes. For example, Jean Grey in X-Men has Phoenix Force in her body. Also like the snake god Seth, he will put a crown in every Marvel universe. There is also the great Mephisto Sidorak of the Crimson Universe, who has dropped rubies in many universes. Then there is the Wetian Emperor Trinity composed of Aeshetu, Hogs, and Agamotto. After the 3 are combined into one, they also have multi-level power. The Book of Wetian Emperor is their product. Then there is Infinity, Eternity, Death, and Annihilation. These exist in every universe, but they do not exist in the form of finding a host, but exist independently. This may be the common characteristic between entities and non-entities at the multi-universe level. Compared with the above-mentioned existences, the Weaver Master is not well known, but there is no doubt that he is a multi-level powerhouse, and he has also constructed multiple channels. When necessary, the Weaver Master can allow Spider-Men to travel through the multi-universe at will. After that, up to the time leading up to the Battle of New York, there is nothing worth mentioning. Time gradually comes to autumn. This evening, in a certain base of Hydra. Hydra scientists are working on the Tesseract here. At this moment, the Tesseract suddenly burst out with high-energy gamma rays, escaped Hydra's control, and opened a portal out of thin air. Loki stepped out. The Hydra agent questioned Loki about his origins, but Loki dismissed them. A battle begins. Hydra shot at Loki, but their bullets were blocked by a magic shield and did not hurt Loki at all. Loki took the Tesseract with him and launched a massacre of the Hydra agents here that was a delight to watch. He killed some Hydra members and used his Mind Scepter to control some Hydra members as horseboys. Then he took the Tesseract and left. At the same time, S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. Nick Fury receives a communication from Talos. A Skrull ally Talos told Fury that just now, they detected a strong gamma radiation erupting from a certain place. According to the reading comparison, it was a gamma ray belonging to the Tesseract. Nick Fury thanked his old friend, hung up the communication, and immediately sent his confidant Phil Coulson to lead a team to investigate the situation. Phil Coulson took people there and found that it was a secret base. He didn't know which organization the base belonged to because there was no sign here. The base is in ruins, with no one alive inside. Needless to say, the Tesseract was snatched away. The culprit is probably Loki. Nick Fury received a report from Phil Coulson, realized the seriousness of the problem, and immediately launched the Avengers project. Natasha Romanoff is sent to South America to find Dr. Bruce Banner. Phil Coulson is sent to contact Tony Stark. Captain America Steve Rogers was also notified. Nick Fury didn't know how powerful Evan, Wanda, Gwen, and others were, because Wanda and others didn't show any magic or skills when they were in New Mexico last time, otherwise he would definitely send someone to invite Evan, Wanda, and Gwen. Rather than ignoring them. At present, the only people who know that they are extraordinary, excluding Gaina, are Stark and Pepper, but they have not told anyone about it. In fact, this is good. Evan doesn't want to join the Avengers. There are too many bad things involved. Joining is just causing trouble for himself. Evan received a call from Pepper. Evan, Tony asked me to tell you that the Tesseract is stolen and may be taken away by Loki. The Battle of New York may really happen. I will leave New York and hide in Los Angeles for a while. If you have nowhere to go, you can come with me. No, Miss Potts, we can protect ourselves. After chatting for a few more words, Evan hung up the phone and said to Gwen and Wanda on the side, the Battle of New York is about to begin. When the two of them heard this, they were both eager to give it a try. Having mastered a powerful body, the two of them were worried that they had no place to show it. The Battle of New York was about to happen, and both of them wanted to participate in it and show off their talents. Let this war be my first battle as a superhero, Gwen said excitedly. When did you become a fighting maniac and subvert your personality? Evan was speechless. I just feel uncomfortable holding it in. I don't object if you want to be a superhero, but you have to hide your identity. I know, you have to cover your face, don't worry. What about you, Wanda? I want to participate too. Okay, let's design the uniform first, and be sure to hide your identity. What about you? Gwen asked Evangelist originally. Evan didn't intend to be a hero and save people in trouble. In particular, he was even less interested in the Yingjiang people rescuing people from distress. But who makes his female supporters have such a strong sense of justice? If he chooses to stay out of the matter, he might disappoint them and lose their favorability. In the end, Evan chose to participate. At worst, he would have to do nothing but paddle the whole process. You're all involved, I'll definitely be involved too. Evan shrugged. Chapter 37. The plot changed, but not completely. Loki still went to the romantic country of Stuttgart, and was captured by the Avengers Alliance. During this period, Thor appeared, and finally everyone went to the S.H.I.E.L.D. space carrier. Those Hydra agents controlled by Loki's mind continue to perform tasks according to Loki's plan. On the S.H.I.E.L.D. side, Nick Fury, who knew the plot in advance, was not a freeloader. Although the plot has changed, as long as you know what Loki's purpose is, you can easily lay it out. Over at Stark Industrial Headquarters, a large number of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents have been ambushed. And here on the space carrier, spears and cannons have also been erected. But, Loki's plan is subtly different from the original time and space. Loki learned that S.H.I.E.L.D. had been infiltrated by Hydra through the Hydra agents who were mind-controlled by him, and also obtained a list of Hydra members. Loki's plan is different from the original time and space. He has no one to save him. He is confident that he can cripple S.H.I.E.L.D's space carrier alone, as long as he makes good use of Hydra. There are indeed many Hydra agents on the space carrier. Rather, at least half of the people here are Hydra agents. Loki, who was imprisoned here, used magic to contact the Hydra agents here and threatened them to expose them if they did not help him. Hydra agent had no choice but to be dragged into the water and became Loki's pawn. Definitely, if given the chance, these Hydra agents would kill Loki without any hesitation. But who is Loki? He is the god of mischief and lies. With Loki's methods, it is not easy to master Hydra. To sum up, through a series of coincidences, the plot of Avengers Alliance 1 is surprisingly similar to the original time and space. This has to make people wonder whether there is something called the power of destiny correction in the world. In short, in the end, Thor was ejected from a high altitude, Banner turned into the Hulk and smashed all kinds of things on the space carrier, and the space carrier made an emergency landing in the sea. With the forced help of Hydra members, Loki successfully left the space carrier with the psychic scepter. In New York, the protective forces Fury deployed around Stark Industries were all destroyed by Hydra members. When Loki came over, he successfully opened a wormhole over New York. The Battle of New York has officially begun. Evan, Wanda, and Gwen came to Manhattan, New York, which had turned into a battlefield, and went to 3 different neighborhoods separately. Gwen, dressed as a ghost spider, fell from the sky. Between the kicks and kicks of her legs, a series of slashes formed by Lan's feet killed all the enemies around her from the air. Then she flashed and appeared 100 meters away, continuing to rescue people in distress. Unlike Gwen, Wanda's fighting is an art, and the experienced one is just playing with Chitauri like a child. Although there were many enemies, Wanda single-handedly killed them in pieces. You can tell at a glance that Scarlet Witch Wanda has been through a lot of battles. This is normal. You must know that Wanda had conducted an actual combat exercises at the simulated training ground, and her rich combat experience was incredible. This created a situation where Big Boss Wanda tortured the Chitauri children. Compared with Scarlet Wanda, although Gwen has combat experience, it is not that exaggerated and can only be said to be quite satisfactory. Evan sighed. At the moment, Evan, although not wearing a superhero uniform, was masked. He was on another block, acting more or less skittish. Evan's fighting style is different from Wanda's. If Wanda fights like she's beating a child, Evan fights like she's showing off her skills. He used 8 magical skills, combined with magical means, to make the street look like a supernatural scene. While Evan was walking, the Feng Kaukuman was activated, and formations were deployed throughout the neighborhood. Enemies who step into the range of the formation will always die inexplicably. These formations can also automatically identify people within the range and will not target ordinary people, only Chitauri. Evan also used both hands, combined with his robotics skills, to play battlefield explosives. Whenever he passed a vehicle on the side of the road, he would touch it with his hand. The vehicle's form will then change, turning into a simple structured robot. Then, Evan will activate his magical machine, Balian.chem, to transform the cars into robots and control them to attack the enemy. As he walked, there were fewer and fewer enemies, and more robots around him. Finally, the robots formed an army, took off one after another, and began to eliminate enemies in a larger area. Evan only set up the formation and controlled the robot, and did not use other methods. He was mostly paddling. At the S.H.I.E.L.D aerospace mothership floating on the sea, Director Nick Fury and Mothership Commander Maria Hill used satellite monitoring to observe the battlefield in New York and noticed the 3 superheroes. They are 2 men and 1 woman, possess magical powers and are extremely powerful in combat. The woman wearing a black and white spider uniform moved flexibly throughout the battlefield, and she swiftly dispatched enemies wherever she passed. The woman in red uniform floated in the air, killing enemies in pieces with very capable means. The masked man in casual clothes was also very powerful. Wherever he passed, the surrounding environment seemed to be blessed with some kind of special effect, turning the area into a restricted area for the enemy, causing enemies who entered it to die inexplicably. As he walked, he transformed the surrounding vehicles to form an army of Autobots to fight against the alien invaders. I need to know who they are. Nick Fury said. I have some guesses about their identities. Maria Hill whispered in a voice that only Nick Fury could hear. You mean? Nick Fury was stunned for a moment and guessed something. Yes, in the Marvel superhero game, these 3 people do not appear in the copy of Avengers 1, but there are players with similar body types in the game. Maria Hill analyzed. In Nick Fury's mind, the images of Evan, Wanda, and Gwen could not help but appear. Rooftop, 177A Brick Street, New York. Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One, while destroying the approaching invaders, looked into the distance. Her eyes penetrated the barrier and saw Evan, as well as Wanda and Gwen. In fact, Ancient One has discovered some anomalies in the past few years, and found that the fate of many people has changed to varying degrees, including Stephen Strange, who she has designated as her apprentice. It was just because the fate of these people was changing for the better that she didn't interfere. At that time, the Ancient One was still curious about this matter, and used the words of Agamotto to trace the timelines of those whose fate had been deflected, trying to trace the source of their changes. By tracing back, the Ancient One discovered part of the truth. Those whose fate has changed have all mentioned a game called Marvel Superhero in past private exchanges. Continuing to trace back, the Ancient One traced back to Evan. But because the other party was not a villain and was basically harmless, she did not intervene. According to the traced content, let Ancient One know that Evan created that game. The other party used that game to interfere with the destiny of many people and guide their destiny in a better direction. Chapter 38. Thanks to Devil CWK for the 588 VIP point reward, thanks to Dark Key Hertz and How Lucky for your monthly votes. Ancient One was thinking at the moment, should we find an opportunity to get in touch with Evan? After thinking about it, she shook her head and thought it was unnecessary. Anyway, everything is changing for the better, right? At this time, the Avengers began to feel the battlefield. With the addition of the Avengers, the situation on the battlefield has been further controlled. Stark and Thor, 2 guys with air supremacy, began to clear the sky of enemies. Captain America, Widow's sister, Hawkeye and the Hulk were responsible for cleaning up the ground and approaching Stark Industries, preparing to close the wormhole there. Loki meets Hulk. Loki is arrogant. Hulk hoisted Loki up and hit him, then gave him a final blow. What a weak god. Loki was hit hard and fell into a state of doubt about life. His spiritual scepter was picked up by a passing widow. The widowed sister went to the roof of Stark Industries and prepared to close the wormhole. At this time, Stark said that a nuclear bomb was coming, asking Natasha Romanoff to close the wormhole later. The Chitauri army, realizing that the Avengers were trying to close the wormhole, came towards them one after another. The Avengers all gathered around here and defended with all their strength. Evan, Gwen, and Wanda also came to the rooftop of Stark Industries to defend together with the Avengers. Among the Avengers, except for Hawkeye, Hulk, Captain America, and Thor, everyone else recognized Evan's identity under the three-faced mask. I never knew you were so powerful. The widow sister held the psychic scepter, pointed it at the Tesseract, and said to Evan, who was standing not far from her. Evan waved his hand and cast the shadow spell, constantly simulating wind blades, fireballs, and lightning to attack the incoming invaders, and then said without looking back, "We are just children under the age of 20. Isn't it right to protect our privacy? A child whose mental age is already 100 years old." Natasha Romanoff rolled her eyes. "I'm talking about biological age. Your powers look like magic." There is no comment on this. While talking, everyone saw Iron Man in the sky carrying a missile carrying a nuclear warhead and flying into a wormhole in the sky. A few seconds later, a nuclear explosion occurred at the other end of the wormhole. The Chitauri who invaded the Earth side rushed to the streets at the same time. The Battle of New York is over. At Tony Stark's suggestion, the Avengers went to a fast food restaurant to eat donuts. According to Stark, the donuts here were delicious. Although Stark has never been here, he just heard about it. Evan, Wanda, and Gwen also came to join in the fun. "I don't know who said the food here is delicious before," Gwen complained. After everyone ate it, they found it difficult to swallow. Stark politely expressed his embarrassment. During the meal, Thor asked Evan and others, "I see that some of the magic you use is very similar to the magic my mother often uses. Where did you learn your magic?" As soon as Thor's question came out, the Avengers pricked up their ears. Magic and the like are still a relatively new thing to everyone. Evan said nonsense seriously, "We have inadvertently communicated with S.H.I.E.L.D, and used it as a transit. The god's telekinesis connected to one of your Asgard witches. By communicating with her the god's telekinesis, we became familiar with each other, and finally succeeded. I became a disciple and learned some magic from him." Evan used a lie to explain why the three of him knew magic. Wanda and Gwen didn't interrupt. They knew they couldn't tell others about Gaina's stay on Earth. "Who is that witch?" Thor asked. "Her name is Fulla, and she is said to be your mother's maid." "Oh, it turns out to be her." Thor suddenly realized. "Is Furlaw great?" Natasha Romanoff asked Thor. "The witches we have there are very powerful. My mother is a witch. Although I have never seen her take action, I have always had an intuition that if my mother becomes serious, I may not be her opponent." Thor used he said in an uncertain tone. After the dinner, the Avengers and others all went to S.H.I.E.L.D. Evan and others did not follow, they returned home directly. In short, the Battle of New York incident has finally come to an end. The next day, S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury launched a vigorous campaign to find out the mole in S.H.I.E.L.D. After the previous incident, Fury knew that there was a traitor in his S.H.I.E.L.D. If it weren't for the traitor, the events of the Battle of New York wouldn't even have happened. Therefore, we must investigate severely, and investigate to death. But with most of S.H.I.E.L.D. being infiltrated by Hydra, it's hard to find anything. News about the Battle of New York has spread around the world, and major newspapers and news programs are vying to report on it. Avengers are widely known to the world. 3 masked men were also in the news. Many people are guessing the identities of the 3 masked men. When they were protecting New York, they happened to be photographed by passers-by, and these videos were uploaded to the internet. 1 man, 2 women, 3 masked men, their abilities are very strong and magical. Especially the guy who can transform a car into a robot is very interesting to some people. Afterwards, someone went to the battlefield to collect those robots, but found that those robots had become wreckage and nothing could be researched at all. Some people from relevant departments and some shady private organizations are secretly investigating the true identities of the 3 masked men, trying to figure out the source of their abilities. So far, the only people who know the identities of the three masked men are the Avengers, Fury, Hill, Sharon, Pepper Potts, and Phil Coulson. These insiders all concealed this information. Nick Fury did not record the three people's information in the S.H.I.E.L.D file, because Fury felt that the guy who was undercover in S.H.I.E.L.D might have gotten to the top. If he recorded such information, he would be leaking the information to the outside world, thus causing trouble for the three children. It is worth mentioning that Phil Coulson did not die at the hands of Loki this time in the Battle of New York. He survived completely. After all, he knew the plot in advance. It would be unreasonable for him to die. While Fury was investigating the traitor, he sent Natasha Romanoff to contact Evan and others. Fury wants to recruit those three people to join the Avengers. With such strong strength, it would be a shame not to allow them to join the Avengers. So the widowed sister came to Evan's house. At the moment, Evan is the only one in Evan's family. Wanda and Gwen went to school at Empire State University. The two of them had not gone to school for a long time and both missed their school days. Chapter 39. If your purpose here is to invite us to join the Avengers, then there is no need to ask. Evan looked at Natasha Romanoff standing outside the door and blocked the other person's words before she could speak. Can I ask why? We just want to live a peaceful life, but the Avengers are so big that they attract trouble. Okay, I'll tell Fury what you said. Natasha Romanoff is gone. From the next period to 2013, nothing major happened. Time gradually came to the beginning of 2013. The Super Game Development System, which has been dormant for several years, is finally online again. Now, Evan can start the game at any time. But he is not in a hurry and plans to add some content to the game first. Here's what his Marvel superhero game looks like so far: public areas, Malibu Beach, downtown Los Angeles, Hawaiian Islands. Copies: Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Captain Marvel 1, Thor 1, Captain America 1, Avengers Alliance 1. Non-realistic copy: Dark, Actual Combat Training Ground. Function: Points Redemption Mall. Using the game editor, Evan added 3 new copies. They are Iron Man 3, Thor 2, and Doctor Strange 1 respectively. He set conditions for entry into these copies. Only after clearing all previous copies can you enter Iron Man 3 and Thor 2. Doctor Strange 1 also has entry conditions. Except for Stephen Strange, if other players want to enter, they have to wait for the next version of the game. With the help of the game editor, 3 copies were quickly generated. After that, Evan made major changes to the basic rules of the game world. First of all, everything in the public areas of the game is no longer free. For example, if you want to eat, you have to pay for it. You can no longer get it unlimitedly in your own private player villa like in the past. For another example, if you want to go on vacation to the Hawaiian Islands in a public area, you have to spend money to buy tickets, and everything you spend there also costs money. If players want to live well in the public areas of the game world, they must use real-world money to recharge, which can be transferred directly through online banking. The money transferred from online banking will be laundered by the system and deposited into Evan's bank account without anyone noticing the problem. After checking that there was nothing wrong, Evan stood up and cast a spell, teleporting to Washington, D.C., ready to mark Steve Rogers. The process of marking Steve Rogers will be omitted. At 12 o'clock that night, the game world opened again. Evan, Wanda, Gwen, Abigail, Tony, Pepper Potts, Fury, Hill, Natasha Romanoff, Sharon, Phil Coulson, Strange, Kristen, and Captain America were all forced online. Except for new player Steve Rogers, everyone else understands that the Marvel superhero game is now open. At the same time, all players receive game announcements. The closed beta phase of the Marvel superhero game has begun. The upgrade content of this version is as follows: 1. New copies: Iron Man 3, Thor 2, Doctor Strange 1. Note: Doctor Strange 1 is a special copy, currently only open to Stephen Strange. If other players want to enter, they need to wait for the next version of the game. 2. Modification of points setting: from now on, points can only be used for shopping in the Points Mall. 3. Everything in the game will no longer be free, and players will need to spend money to purchase everything. 4. Activate the game recharge function. Stephen Strange looked at the content in the game announcement with a stunned expression. Doctor Strange 1, only I can enter? I'm just an ordinary person, Why am I called special by this game? Do I have a mysterious ability that I don't even know about? Stephen, are you hiding something from me? Kristen Palmer saw that this game gave Stephen Strange special treatment and felt that the other party might be hiding something from her. Strange shook his head. I don't know what's going on, but I guess this dungeon may have something to do with me. I'm very curious about this dungeon now, but unfortunately I can only enter it after clearing Iron Man 3 and Thor 2. Then let's go through the dungeon first. I'm very interested in what's in the dungeon that only you can enter. Christine, a woman who usually looks quite serious, is also very gossipy in her daily life. The 5 members of S.H.I.E.L.D got together again to discuss the fact that Stephen Strange was treated specially by the game. We investigated Stephen Strange, who was a surgeon at New York Presbyterian Hospital, who would become a doctor, and who might be related to his sister, Donna, who died early in life, but other than that, there was nothing special about him. Place. Maria Hill said. Stark was just a regular guy before he became Iron Man. Natasha Romanoff shrugged. You want to say that Stephen Strange is going to be extraordinary in the future? Phil Coulson asked. Yes, the title Doctor Strange is quite self-explanatory. Natasha Romanoff is sure of this. Doctor Strange, translated into English is Doctor_Strange. Doctor can be translated as doctor or doctor. Stephen Strange is the doctor. The pronunciation of Strange is similar to Strange. Doctor Strange is obviously a reference to Stephen Strange. After being reminded by Natasha Romanoff, everyone reacted. Let's be honest, the protagonist of the Doctor Strange copy is Stephen Strange. As for why the game world gives special treatment to Stephen, no one can guess. Anyway, let's conquer the dungeons of Iron Man 3 and Thor 2 first. Both dungeons can be teamed up with 5 people, and we have exactly 5 people. Fury decided on the next course of action. Tony Stark and Pepper Potts are also discussing this matter, and have also come to the conclusion that the protagonist of the copy of Doctor Strange is Stephen Strange. After the discussion, the two teamed up to enter the copy of Iron Man 3. After all, this is a copy of Tony's own story, and he wants to know what kind of future this copy will play out. Only by knowing the future can threats be nipped in the bud. Steve Rogers woke up in a strange villa. He didn't know where he was. The game system panel in his field of vision also made him at a loss. As a relic of a bygone era, Steve Rogers has always had a hard time with things like technology. He wanted to get out of the villa, but was prompted to complete the first copy. Iron Man 1? Is this done by Tony Stark? Steve Rogers guessed. He wanted to see what Stark was up to, so he clicked to enter the copy of Iron Man 1. Chapter 40. Evan used the game editor to expand a larger space underneath the villa in the game world as a spaceship construction factory. He also generated a large number of NPC technical workers here, and asked the robot lady to act as the chief engineer here and preside over the construction of the spacecraft. To build a spaceship, you cannot use the materials in the game. Otherwise, the built spaceship can only exist in the game world and cannot be taken out. Therefore, materials must be transported from the outside world to the game world and made into spaceships here, so that such spaceships can be used by the outside world. Regarding the delivery of materials, Evan gave Abigail full responsibility. Although Abigail is an artificial intelligence robot, she has also been given the identity of a gamer by Evan and can freely enter and exit the game. In order to help Evan build the spaceship, Abigail left the game world and bought a warehouse in the suburbs of the outside world. She placed orders online and purchased various materials. The harvest address is filled in at this warehouse. As long as the materials are delivered, Abigail can bring the materials into the game world and build the spaceship. Wanda and Gwen both knew about Evan's plan to build a spaceship, and they were both very interested in it. They began to dream about traveling to the universe with Evan when the spacecraft was completed. However, the construction of the spacecraft is a big project, and it may take a long time to complete. After all kinds of raw materials have to be purchased from the real world. In line with the principle of doing what's best, the spaceship Evan wants is a large spaceship, several thousand meters in diameter, hundreds of meters wide, and hundreds of meters high. Abigail estimates that it will take about 2 months to half a year before the spacecraft can be officially completed. The completion mentioned here refers to the completion at the technological level. Evan also plans to enchant the spaceship, which will take longer. Fortunately, everyone has plenty of time. Evan, Wanda, and Gwen entered the Iron Man 3 instance. There is nothing worth mentioning about this copy. With the strength of 3 people, they can kill it directly. All players who entered this dungeon spent several months of dungeon time to clear this dungeon one after another. Tony Stark and Pepper completed the dungeon. As soon as the dungeon came out, Tony said, "When it gets light outside, I'll go kill Aldridge and save him from causing trouble in the future." "I thought you were going to say go find Maya Hansen." Pepper was obviously jealous. Maya Hansen, although her extremis research project has shortcomings, if it is studied in depth, it may not be able to produce stable results. Tony said. Pepper became even more jealous. Tony Stark noticed this and quickly comforted him. Everyone from S.H.I.E.L.D has also cleared Iron Man 3 and is together again. "Phil Coulson, I'll give you a mission. Find Maya Hansen after dawn. Be sure to recruit her." Fury said. "Yes, sir. If you want to recruit Maya Hansen, it's best to do it as soon as possible. If it's too late, Tony Stark will beat you to it." Natasha Romanoff reminded. Phil Coulson could only log off early to investigate the whereabouts of Maya Hansen. Others have successively entered copies of THOR2. Steve Rogers completed Iron Man 1. Is this something that happens in the real world? Steve Rogers, who wanted to know more, went straight into the copy of Iron Man 2 without going out. Here in the game public area, a few more days have passed. Except for new player Steve Rogers, the rest of the old players have cleared Thor 2 one after another. Through this story, everyone knows what Dark Elves, TIE Particles, and Asgard look like. At this point in time, the story of Thor 2 is still not far away. Nick Fury began to prepare for this. He wanted to plan TIE Particles. Magifaxia wants to contain the TIE Particles and use them to develop some powerful weapons, so that they will not be passive when facing aliens. Also eyeing TIE Particles is Tony Stark. If something like TIE Particles possesses a living creature, it will absorb the vitality of the living creature, but if it is integrated into a steel battlesuit, a more powerful battlesuit may be developed. Whether it's Fury or Stark, both of them are determined to win TIE Particles. It will be a few days before the THOR2 story takes place, and they are going to use this time to develop a device that can contain TIE Particles. Except for Fury and Stark, no one else is interested in TIE Particles. Although they all know that they are treasures, not everyone can control this kind of treasure. Gwen was somewhat interested in TIE Particles and wanted to collect them for research, but she gave up this dangerous idea after Evan taught her about the concept of infinite gems. Everyone is conquering the dungeon and learning about the future through the dungeon. Everyone's future destiny has deviated again. This gives Evan a reward of 3,000 redemption points. Once you have the reward points, you must definitely redeem them for practice skills. Ever since he perfected the 8 magic skills, Evan has been learning the spells taught by Gaina. He has almost finished learning them now and is worried that he has no new knowledge to learn. Evan clicks to open the System Exchange Mall. His Exchange Mall is different from the Exchange Mall in the game world. There are more products in it. Evan, who has perfected the 8 wonders, is already at a very high level of life and is only one step away from becoming an immortal. Evan needs a technique that can completely metamorphose his life level. 3,000 redemption points definitely cannot be exchanged for the cultivation technique. But to become an immortal, you don't necessarily need to practice true skills. He searched in the System Exchange Mall and found the right one. He redeemed the 10,000 magic immortal secrets from the Systems Exchange Mall. This practice method is not like practicing Qi to build the foundation Pil Yuanying. It is more like a general outline that can embrace all rivers. Its function is to integrate the power cultivated by different systems to produce new energy. The new energy can be compatible with many systems. For example, it is compatible with magic to release magic, compatible with chakra to release ninjutsu, compatible with natural power to release witchcraft, and compatible with Qi amplification physique. In short, it is a special method that can be compatible with most systems. Evan believes that when he uses the 10,000 methods Immortal Ju to unify his many cultivation systems, his life will enter the metamorphosis stage, and he will naturally metamorphose into an immortal. Chapter 41. Game World Day. Time, 4 p.m. Location, Evan's Villa. Evan and others, who have completed 2 dungeons in a row as a team, are sitting together at the moment. Evan talked about the new exercises and discussed with the 2 women whether to do another long retreat. Now, the 3 of them have perfected the 8 wonders of skills, and are only one step away from ascending to immortality. In fact, if you take the Lyoku Immortal Thief alone, as long as you practice to perfection, you will have reached the standard of ascension. Although the immortal thief of Lyoka does not provide practitioners with very strong combat power, its metamorphosis of the essence of life is the most prominent among the 8 magical skills. It's a pity that this place is not under one person, but at Marvel. There is no ascension rule here, and you cannot use the ascension rule to change your life level from mortal to immortal. Even the game world cannot simulate the ascension rule. So I can only find a way to metamorphosis myself. Not only do you need to practice new techniques, you may also need to sleep for a period of time to metamorphosis yourself, which may take a long time. To put it bluntly, it means spending a lot of time to endure it, and there is nothing we can do about it. Fortunately, they have a game world. As long as metamorphosis occurs in a copy of the game world, time in the real world will not pass very long. Knowing that they were going on vacation in the dungeon again, the 2 women were quite looking forward to it. Not looking forward to the long period of hard training, but looking forward to the undisturbed quiet life together. The 2 girls don't have to worry about going to school. Anyway, they all have their own stand-in robots. Those 2 stand-in robots can perfectly simulate their daily habits and can be used as their stand-ins to take their place outside. Gwen and Wanda summoned their respective stand-in robots and told them to play themselves well during this period. Evan didn't want to disappear, so he asked Abigail to take time out of her day to pretend to be herself using holographic technology. After that, a group of 3 people formed a team and entered the dark copy. In order to prevent the retreat from being disturbed, Evan also secretly used the GM authority to temporarily lose the main line of this copy, leaving only Peace. Stephen Strange, who is about to enter the copy of Doctor Strange, is a little nervous but also a little looking forward to it. I am nervous about what I will encounter in the future, but I am also looking forward to my experience as the protagonist. Kristen Palmer said to Stephen, "You can continue with the copy. I will go to the public area and the Hawaiian Islands for vacation first." Stephen Strange nodded, "Have a good time." After he finished speaking, he entered the copy of Doctor Strange 1. Stephen Strange did not appear in the copy world, but hovered in a pure white space without gravity. Just when he was confused, the game system prompt sounded, "Please select the copy experience method 1. First-person story mode. You will experience your future from a first-person perspective, but you cannot control your body and can only experience it passively. 2. Participant mode. You will obtain a new identity in the copy and participate in the story. 3. Third-person cinema mode. You will appear in the system's fictional cinema and watch a movie with you as the protagonist. Stephen Strange was stunned for a moment. He looked at these 3 options carefully. Among the 3 options, only the second option has a degree of freedom. Both the first and third options can only be looked at. The only difference lies in the viewing posture. Stephen Strange wonders about his future. If you enter in participant mode, your actions may cause a butterfly effect, causing this future story to deviate from its original trajectory. If you choose first person or third person, although there is no degree of freedom, you can read the original story of the copy completely. So Strange passed option 2. The remaining options 1 and 3 have their own pros and cons. Option 1, you can only see what the NPC sees, and what the NPC cannot see, he will not be able to see either. The advantage is that it has a greater sense of immersion. Option 3, the game will edit his future into a movie for him to watch. Since it is a movie, the perspective will not be limited to the NPC himself, but will also include scenes of other characters. After thinking for a moment, Stephen Strange chose option 3. This option allows him to understand all the causes and consequences of the future story, which is considered to be from a god's perspective. The environment around him became the interior of a movie theater. And he was sitting in the cinema. On the giant screen in front of him, a picture began to play. At the beginning of the scene, a group of suspected cultists, led by Caecilius, broke into a library and tore a page from a book there. At this time, a woman wearing a yellow robe and a hood walked out of the darkness. The appearance of the woman frightened the cultists, and they all turned around and ran away, running into a portal and arriving in London. But just as they were escaping, their way was blocked by flowing glass. The hooded woman in yellow robe appeared behind them. As she waved her hand, all the reflective mirrors around her began to expand, gradually pulling herself and the cultists into the mirror world, mirror space. She waved her hand gently, and the direction of gravity here was changed. Everyone fell onto the wall of the building on one side. Under the control of the hooded woman, the wall began to rotate and twist like a mirror, crushing towards the guys suspected of being cultists. They had no choice but to fight with the hooded woman, but they were no match for the hooded woman. They were knocked away lightly, and the people who were knocked away fell into the rotating and twisted wall, were crushed into flesh and blood, and died. This battle is simply full of special effects. At the end of the battle, Caecilius saw that ability was no match for him, so he drew a circle with his hand, opened the sparking portal, and ran away. Stephen Strange in the cinema couldn't help but be dumbstruck, dumbfounded as he watched the scenes on the screen. Are those guys mean super ability? If it is super ability, it would be too exaggerated, right? Especially the hooded woman in yellow robes, who pulls the enemy into the mirror world with a wave of her hand, and changes the direction of gravity and material form in the mirror world with her thoughts, causing all the materials in it to undergo geometric flow changes. Such a method can be called a miracle. Those guys who were chased by the yellow-robed hooded woman also had extraordinary powers, and their abilities looked very similar. This shows what? If you are as smart as Stephen Strange, you can naturally figure it out. This shows that the abilities of those guys are not the result of an accident that cannot be copied, but can be learned and mastered. A concept popped into Stephen Strange's mind. That's it, magic. But does magic really exist in this world? As doubts arose in his mind, he looked more seriously. He saw himself and Kristen Palmer appearing in the movie, but the two in the movie had broken up. In the movie, I was in a car accident and my hands were severely disabled. As a surgeon, having his hands disabled meant the end of his career. In the movie, he did not give up hope and kept visiting famous doctors to try to treat his hands. In the process, he gradually spent all his savings and began to borrow money from friends and his ex-girlfriend to continue his medical journey. He found no hope of healing himself, and became more and more decadent. Kristen Palmer was trying to persuade him not to go on like this, but he still refused to accept the reality, and the two even quarreled over this. Christine left disappointed. Stephen in the cinema looked at himself in the movie and felt very heavy. Is this my future destiny? He murmured to himself. No, since it is a story with me as the protagonist, there must be a turning point next. Besides, I already know the future in advance, so this bad future will definitely not happen, and I won't let it happen. The scene continues. Through someone, Stephen Strange learned about camartage, which seemed to have medical technology far ahead of its time. Through his investigation, he learned that camartage might be in Kathmandu. He spent the last of his savings on a one-way ticket to Kathmandu. After many twists and turns, we finally arrived at camartage. Here he met the hooded woman in yellow robe. Stephen in the cinema saw himself in the movie finding the woman in the yellow robe and hood, and knew that he was in the right place. But he didn't have a god's perspective and didn't know how powerful the hooded woman was. The hooded woman told him about magic, but he refused to believe it and even taunted him. As a result, the hooded woman named Ancient One slapped her soul out, and then the Ancient One took her soul and traveled around the dimension. Both Stephen outside the movie and Stephen in the movie were stunned by this scene. Chapter 42. Game World, Temporary Cinema. Stephen Strange, the only audience member, looked at the future shown in the movie screen, his eyes widened and his breathing became rapid. Magic actually exists. This seemed to open a door to a new world for him. Although Stephen Strange does not have disabled hands, he has developed a desire for the knowledge called magic. In the movie, he finally succeeds in worshipping camartage and begins to learn magic there. Outside the movie, he finally learned that the group of cultists at the beginning of the movie were once magicians of camartage. After learning that the Ancient One had survived for hundreds of years but had not passed down the method of longevity, they rebelled collectively and took refuge with an evil god named Dormammu. They became a young man and wanted to dedicate the earth to others in exchange for eternal life. Strange watched himself studying in the movie, forgetting sleep and food, growing up step by step, and gradually becoming a magician. When he learned what he was about to face, from the initial fear, he took on the responsibility of saving the world, and then went with Modo and Wong to stop the cultists. He saw that version of himself, controlling the artifact called Eye of Agamotto to reverse time, using the method of recycling time, negotiating with Dormammu while being tortured and killed, and finally saving the world. The video ends. Stephen Strange's heart was heavy and frightened. I am afraid of what I will experience, and I am also afraid of whether I will be able to make the same choice as my future self. He asked himself, if the price for gaining extraordinary power was to experience those terrible things, would he still be willing to do that? He was hesitant, and even wanted to escape. But deep in his subconscious, something was reviving. He thought of his sister, Donna. During her lifetime, Donna regarded her brother as a hero and believed that he could protect her forever. But ironically, when Donna drowned, Strange, who was only 19 years old at the time, was studying in medical school. Donna's death became an irreparable pain in Stephen's heart. Helplessness, hatred, and self-blame almost overwhelmed him. That experience turned into a nightmare that he didn't want to remember. Until now. He thought of his sister, of her cheerfulness, of her love for the world, of her regarding himself as her hero. Hero, murmured Stephen Strange. His temperament gradually changed. There seems to be less confusion and more other things. Ding, Stephen Strange's fate has changed significantly, and the host will be rewarded with 5,000 redemption points. Dark copy. Evan, who was on vacation and retreat here, heard the system prompt and knew that Stephen Strange had cleared Doctor Strange 1, otherwise the opponent's fate would not have such a big deviation. Evan used the 5,000 redemption points he just obtained to redeem some D&D system spells. 3rd level spell, Lesser Shadow Tentacle 7th level spell, Projection 7th level spell, Greater Shadow Conjuration 7th level spell, Simulacra legendary spell, Ominator's Eternal Sun legendary spell. True Mirror just spent all 5,000 points. These spells are very powerful. Secondary Shadow Tentacles, summons a large number of shadow tentacles from the shadows to attack the enemy. Projection, project everything you know. The higher the mystery of the object, the more mental energy is consumed during projection. The larger the object, the more magic power is consumed when projecting it. Advanced Shadow Conjuration, this spell is an enhanced version of the Shadow Conjuration, which can simulate conjuration and evocation spells of level 6 and below. Simulacra, mimic the image of a creature in your memory into reality. The Eternal Sun of Ominator, summons a small sun that has the temperature and thermal radiation of a real sun. It can last for a long time and is enough to easily destroy a country. Real Mirror, no matter who the enemy is or how powerful they are, as long as their life level does not transcend the single universe, they can be 100% copied by the real mirror. The person copied will have all the abilities of the original body and will be controlled by the operator. In the face of Super 9 level spells, legendary spells, reality is as fragile as a piece of paper. This can be seen from the Ominator Eternal Sun and True Mirror imagery. The former has absolute destructive power. It can easily destroy a country and even kill the ecosystem instantly. The latter is an absolute rule magic. No matter who the enemy is, you can use this magic to temporarily copy the opponent and let the enemy fight with you. With this magic, when facing the Ancient One, Evan can use this magic to copy an Ancient One with 100% strength as a teammate, and form a team with him to face the Ancient One together. This kind of magic is playing with reality. Definitely, in terms of reality, it still can't compare to the pinnacle of Scarlet Witch's origin magic power. Legendary magic is powerful and difficult to learn. Evan estimates that he won't be able to master it within a few decades. The real world is dawning. Phil Coulson found Maya Hansen in advance and brought Maya Hansen back to S.H.I.E.L.D on the pretext of inviting her to tea. By the time Tony Stark investigated Maya Hansen's home address and found her, it was already too late. As smart as Tony Stark, he guessed that the other party's disappearance may be related to S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D must have discovered the value of Maya Hansen through a copy of the game, coveted her Extremis project, and took her away in advance. Tony was helpless. You can't go to S.H.I.E.L.D to rob people. Stephen Strange is out of the game. Kristen, I haven't used my annual leave over the years. It has accumulated to almost a month. Please help me take a leave when you go to the hospital. What exactly did you experience in that copy? I will tell you, but not now. Okay, Christine, I may have to leave New York for a while, I will take care of myself, you don't have to worry. Stephen Strange plans to go ahead and find Kamar-Taj. If Kamar-Taj can be found on this journey, then he will give up his career as a doctor, study magic with the Ancient One, and concentrate on becoming a magician. If you can't find Kamar-Taj, then come back and continue being a doctor. Kristen hesitated to speak. She knew that Stephen must have experienced something in that copy, otherwise the change would not have been so drastic, but she couldn't help it if the other party didn't tell him. Okay, I will ask for leave for you. At 10 a.m., Stephen Strange boarded a flight to Kathmandu. Over at S.H.I.E.L.D., Phil Coulson used his righteousness to successfully get Maya Hansen to join the scientific research department of S.H.I.E.L.D., and became a scientist here, responsible for the research and development of extremis. Pioneer Technology, Maya Hansen's former investor, was visited by S.H.I.E.L.D to check the water meter and found a lot of illegal and criminal evidence. Although Pioneer Technology is a behemoth and has a lot of background, it is useless when S.H.I.E.L.D comes to check the water meter. Even if Pioneer Technology and the Hydra organization secretly cooperate, it is difficult for the Hydra organization to help Pioneer Technology in this matter. Originally, Tony Stark also planned to target Pioneer Technology, but he gave up after seeing that S.H.I.E.L.D took the lead. The story of Iron Man 3 was strangled in the cradle. Chapter 43. Kathmandu, 10 a.m. local time. Stephen Strange has arrived. Because he had seen that movie, Stephen Strange knew that the security here was very poor. For his own safety, after arriving here, he specially found a set of tattered clothes to change into and pretended to look very poor so that you won't be robbed. As the saying goes, since I turned into a piece of shit, no one dares to step on my head. I have to say that this is a very wise expression. Here he inquires about Camartage in this beggar-worthy image. With his appearance, anyone who sees him will know that he is innocent, so he will naturally not attract the attention of others. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Mordo Magician appeared and took Stephen Strange to the Master Magician Ancient One. When Stephen saw that such a yellow-robed hooded woman really existed in the real world, he no longer had any doubts about the plot of the copy of the movie. "Master, I want to learn magic from you," Stephen said in a tone of "Coach, I want to play basketball," and sincerely asked the Ancient One to become a disciple. Ancient One can see through people's hearts. She can see that at the moment, Stephen Strange has no pride and hesitation in his heart. Instead, he has the belief to protect, so he did not engage in those vain tests. Just let him in immediately. She took Stephen to a lobby. She asked Stephen, "Are you ready to face your future?" "Honestly, not yet, but I will try my best," Stephen said honestly. "The future will always catch people off guard. I know you already know some things, but there will always be changes in the future. Don't be too superstitious. I will teach you personally from now on." For the rest of the time, Stephen Strange stayed in Camartage, concentrating on learning magic. After he learned the secret door, he also opened the portal and took time to return to New York and resigned from New York Presbyterian Hospital. In order not to worry his girlfriend Christine Palmer, Stephen Strange did not hide it and told her that he was learning magic somewhere. In order to convince Christine, he also showed his magic to her face to face. Only then did Christine believe that Stephen was not fooling around, but that he really had a different life. As for S.H.I.E.L.D, something went wrong again. The cause has to do with Maya Hansen. In the scientific research department of S.H.I.E.L.D, Maya Hansen led a group of talents who graduated from S.H.I.E.L.D Academy to jointly develop extremis and achieved some results. The gratifying data they obtained from conducting human experiments on death row prisoners not only excited Nick Fury, but also informed Hydra, who was undercover in S.H.I.E.L.D. When Hydra learned that Dr. Maya Hansen had developed a potion that was not weaker than the super soldier serum and could also give people super abilities, in order to monopolize this achievement, they directly kidnapped Maya Hansen and imprisoned her in Hydra. At a certain base, Maya Hansen was asked to develop extremis strengthening potion specifically for Hydra. When Nick Fury learned that Maya Hansen was missing, he went crazy. He personally issued a hush order on Maya Hansen's S.H.I.E.L.D incident, prohibiting insiders from disclosing it to the public. But even in this case, Dr. Maya Hansen was kidnapped. This can only mean one thing: the spies undercover in S.H.I.E.L.D are not stopping. The last internal thorough investigation didn't find anything out, but this time he jumped out to cause trouble again. He really thought Nick Fury was a vegetarian. If you don't say anything, check it and look it to death. But again, now that S.H.I.E.L.D has been penetrated into a sieve by Hydra, it is impossible for Fury to find out anything. If you ask someone to investigate, that's fine. The Hydra people will take over the investigation, so they won't find anything for Fury. Even if someone who is not Hydra investigates, it will be useless when many Hydra members conspire to make confessions to each other. What, you mean lie detector? Do you believe it or not that the lie detector machine can trick you? The result of the investigation was inconclusive. This made agent leader Nick Fury realize the seriousness of the problem. Although he still didn't want to believe it, he had to make an assumption. That is, S.H.I.E.L.D may be very infiltrated. Otherwise, it would be impossible to detect even a little bit of cobweb horse traces. What to do? Nick Fury thought of his Skrull friends, wondering whether to ask them to help, and change and replace them with people from the Bureau to investigate secretly. But he just thought about it and gave up the idea. Things like favor are most valuable only when they are not used. It's not yet time to reach the end of our rope. Nowadays, the only people who can be trusted by Nick Fury are those who have entered the game world with him, such as Phil Coulson, Natasha Romanoff, and Sharon. At least these people will never be spies working undercover in S.H.I.E.L.D, but they're real people. This is not difficult to judge. They have all experienced the game world copy and learned so much information. If they were undercover, some information should have been leaked long ago. How could they wait until now? In order to catch the undercover spy inside S.H.I.E.L.D, Nick Fury called Phil Coulson, Natasha Romanoff, and Sharon into his office. Everyone started discussing this matter. Natasha Romanoff came up with a solution. Evan and the others have magical powers. They learned their magic from the Maids of Asgard. There is no guarantee that they will not learn the ability to read minds. Maybe we can ask them to come and help. If they really can read minds, letting them come to S.H.I.E.L.D will expose all our secrets to them. Hill felt that this was not appropriate. I know those 3 children relatively well. They are all calm and have no ambitions. Moreover, their mental age is far beyond their appearance and they have mature minds. Even if they really know something that should not be said, I definitely won't tell anyone, Natasha Romanoff said. After everyone discussed it, Nick Fury finally made the decision. Natasha Romanoff, go find Evan and the others and ask them if they can read minds. Natasha Romanoff takes the lead. At 3 o'clock that afternoon, Natasha Romanoff came to Evan's house and rang the doorbell. But at the moment, Evan, Wanda, and Gwen are not in the real world, they are still in the game world. However, they all left robots to play themselves, not to mention Wanda and Gwen both had stand-in robots, and even Evan asked Abigail to take the time to play himself, so as not to make people think that he was missing. At the moment, Abigail is at home, playing the role of Evan. She will only go to the warehouse in the suburbs every once in a while to get materials. She returns to the game world at night to preside over the construction of the spaceship, and is at home during the day. Abigail, dressed as Evan with her holographic projection ability, opened the door for Natasha Romanoff. Evan, why don't you invite me to come in and sit down? Natasha Romanoff looked at the other person, not realizing that the Evan in front of her was not Evangelist. Oh, come in. At this moment, there is no one else in Evan's house except Abigail, who has become Evangelist. Wanda and Gwen's stand-in robots are still in school. Natasha Romanoff sat down and asked straight to the point, Evan, can you read minds? Chapter 44. I can't read minds. Abigail, pretending to be Evan, denied it without thinking. Not to mention that she and Evan really couldn't read minds, even if they could, they wouldn't admit it. The ability to read minds is too taboo, but as smart as a robot lady, she still understands this common sense. Can't Wanda and Gwen read minds? Natasha Romanoff asked again. No. Abigail lied seriously. She knows that Wanda can read minds, that is Wanda's ability. People who are physically touched by Wanda will have their minds read. It is worth mentioning that Evan is immune to Wanda's mind reading because he has a system that can help Evan defend against mind control. Natasha Romanoff was visibly relieved after learning that Evan really couldn't read minds. Although S.H.I.E.L.D needs the help of people who can read minds, it doesn't mean that they are willing to contact such people. Okay, let me ask you another question, do you know the magic of lie detection? You'd better tell me what you want us to do for you. If you can help us, we'll do it. Fury suspects that there may be a large number of spies hidden within S.H.I.E.L.D. It's difficult for us to find out the problem ourselves, so we're here to ask those of you who know magic if you can help. Natasha Romanoff explained the purpose of her visit. Abigail shook her head, unfortunately, you have found the wrong person. We can't help you with this matter, but I can give you a suggestion. Tell me. The human body is a well-defended fortress, preventing the invasion of external germs. Most of the time, the human body's immunity is enough to deal with most external bacterial threats, but there are rare times when the immunity becomes unable to cope with it. At this time, they will choose to introduce forces from the outside to intervene, such as drugs. You mean, you want us to bring in a third party? You don't have to be admitted, you can also come quietly. As far as I know, Stark's computer and network security technology is top-notch in the world. You can let him access your intranet and monitor the inside of S.H.I.E.L.D on your behalf. There are pros and cons, it depends on how you weigh them. After chatting for a few more words, Natasha Romanoff said goodbye and left. She responded to S.H.I.E.L.D and informed Nick Fury of Evan's suggestion. Nick Fury rolled his eyes. Unless S.H.I.E.L.D is really seriously ill, he will never be able to implement this plan. He doesn't know yet that S.H.I.E.L.D has long been terminally ill. If he doesn't take strong medicine now, something may happen in the future. But then again, the story of Captain America 2 will still be a long time away. A copy of Captain America 2 in a certain game will definitely provide insight into the plan to launch the game first, and Fury will also be able to find problems by then. Over the next month, Nick Fury continued to self-examine his S.H.I.E.L.D, but as expected, there was no progress. Nick Fury didn't realize the seriousness of the problem yet, so he didn't take any unconventional measures. Being interrupted constantly and being disturbed in return describes Nick Fury at the moment. He deserves to have his S.H.I.E.L.D being penetrated by Hydra without even realizing it. Dark copy. Evan, Wanda, and Gwen live happily here. In the 120th year of their vacation and retreat, they entered the metamorphosis stage successively, and they had to rely on deep sleep to carry out metamorphosis. No one knows how long it will take to fall asleep, but it will definitely take a long time. As long as metamorphosis is successful, you can become an immortal or a god. This so-called metamorphosis stage is not an orthodox spiritual realm. It is just because the Marvel movie universe does not have an ascension rule, and the game cannot simulate that environment. Without the step of ascension, it is impossible to metamorphosis the essence of life through ascension. With the so-called metamorphosis period, to put it bluntly, it takes a lot of time to get through it. This is very inefficient, but there is nothing we can do about it. Fortunately, this is just a copy of the game world. 30 years can pass on a day in the real world. It may only take a month, or maybe a few months, for the metamorphosis to be completed for them in the dungeon. Outside, the story of THOR2 is about to happen. Dr. Jane Foster, Professor Eric Hill, and Daisy Lewis left Eagle Sauce and went to the Fog City of England for academic exchanges. Tony Stark, who had been monitoring the three people, knew that the story of Thor 2 was about to happen, so he brought the equipment he had prepared and came to the Fog City early, and installed gravity anomaly detectors throughout the Fog City. The purpose is to be able to discover gravity anomalies as soon as possible, so as to enter the place demonstrated in the dungeon plot and obtain TIE particles. Last time Maya Hansen was snatched away by S.H.I.E.L.D, which made Tony beat his chest. This time, he must be one step ahead of S.H.I.E.L.D no matter what. But in fact, S.H.I.E.L.D did not send anyone at all this time, because Fury has not caught the traitor so far. In this case, instead of being informed by the traitor after taking action, it is better to do nothing and let Tony Stark. It is better to obtain TIE particles than to let unknown forces obtain them. However, S.H.I.E.L.D is not involved, which does not mean that Stephen Strange is not involved. Stephen Strange has been practicing at Camartage for some time. Stephen, who was disabled in both hands in the original time and space, was so talented. Now that his hands are intact, he can cast spells with gestures, and can enter the game world and practice cheating during the game, which makes him even more talented. Stephen Strange, who only studied at Camartage for 2 months, has already surpassed Baron Mordo and Fatty Wong in strength. Not only is his ability growing, Stephen is also a simulation training ground in the game world. He has simulated battles against various enemies and has no shortage of combat experience. Now Stephen Strange's strength is almost equal to that of him who fought against Thanos during Avengers Alliance 4 Infinity War. With such exaggerated magical qualifications and extremely hard-working attitude, it can only be said that he is worthy of being chosen by the Ancient One magician. It can be said that in the current era, apart from Wanda, who was destined to be the Scarlet Witch by Sithorn, Stephen Strange is the person with the most outstanding magical ability. With ability, cheats, and hard work, he deserves to be so strong. Stephen's hard work was noticed by the Ancient One. Ancient One knows that the reason Stephen becomes stronger so quickly is due to the factors of that game, but it is not the main factor. The main factor is Stephen's ability and mentality. Without these two, even with cheats, it is impossible to progress so fast. All in all, Ancient One is very pleased. At the same time, Ancient One is also lamenting that in this new timeline after being changed by Evan, everything is changing for the better. Let's bring the perspective back. Stephen Strange, who had watched the movie, knew that the magic floating cloak was his destined equipment, so he teleported to London's holy place, took the magic floating cloak, and then stayed in London to prepare for obtaining TIE particles. It's not that Stephen is greedy for TIE particles and wants to get something as his own, he just wants to take it back and give it to the Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One, so that the other party can seal it to avoid attracting the Dark Elves. Stephen Strange now has a heroic mentality. If you are a hero, you cannot be selfish. Over in London, Tony Stark and Stephen Strange meet. Strange, are you here to join in the fun? If I remember correctly, you are just an ordinary person. In other words, the dungeon that only you can enter has given you some revelations about your future destiny. Be different in advance. Tony himself became different in advance because of the copy of the Marvel superhero game, so Tony Stark did not underestimate Stephen Strange, who was supposed to be an ordinary person. Because the other party is likely to be the same as yourself and is different from before. Stephen Strange lamented, it has indeed given me a revelation about the future, and I have verified the authenticity of that revelation. Chapter 45. Have you ever thought about a question? The people invited to that game are extraordinary. Tony Stark mentioned this matter. Stephen Strange is definitely aware of this problem. So far, most of the game players have shown extraordinary performance. Only Pepper Potts and Kristen Palmer are more ordinary. The former was pulled into the game together with Tony Stark, and the latter was invited to join the game by Stephen with an invitation letter. The two chatted about this matter for a while. After that, they talked about TIE particles. In a way, Tony and Stephen are very compatible. Although they have different methods of handling TIE particles, they are ready to cooperate until they find that thing. Steve Rogers had cleared all copies except Doctor Strange one a month ago. When he was playing the Captain America 1 dungeon, he looked at his past self in the dungeon and felt very subtle. When he passed other dungeons, he was told that this new era in the future has not become better, but has become more dangerous. Knowing the future made his originally confused heart become firm again. He wanted to do something for the children of this era. Captain America knew that the story of Thor 2 was about to happen in the Fog City of England, and was about to go there, but was stopped by Sharon Carter. The matters in the Twist City have been taken over by Stark, and we, S.H.I.E.L.D, will not interfere, Sharon said. I'm not from S.H.I.E.L.D. As early as a few months ago, Steve had known that Sharon was not just a nurse, but an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Before that, the two were about to become a couple, but because of this incident, Steve began to reject Sharon. Yes, you are not from S.H.I.E.L.D, but your every move is watched by many people. Once you go to the Fog City, it will cause the eyes of many forces to turn there, making things that should be simple become complicated. Captain, you don't want TIE particles to be obtained by criminals. Eventually Steve Rogers was convinced. The day when the 9 realms will be connected is coming. Tony Stark and Stephen Strange located the gravitational anomaly and came here early. Stephen Strange used the secret gate to open a portal to the Dark Elf Kingdom of Wat Alhaim by taking advantage of the weak point in space here. His ability made Tony Stark quite concerned, but he did not ask immediately because his attention was already attracted by the environment on the other side of the portal. The two people traveled through the past, and the place they came to was the underground of the planet. This is a very spacious cave with lava flowing below. Somewhere here, there is an altar. Above the altar, there are 2 square boulders. Between the boulders, dark red liquid energy flows. That liquid energy is the TIE particle sealed here. It seems we have found the target. Tony Stark narrowed his eyes and looked at Stephen Strange. Stephen Strange also narrowed his eyes and looked at Stark. I think you won't give up on getting it, right? Strange said. Yes, I must get this thing. Tony Stark said. Then let's all rely on our abilities. Strange raised his hand to cast a spell. Tony Stark pulled the drawstring on his chest, and the nano armor automatically covered his whole body. Yes, Tony Stark during this period had already developed a nano battlesuit. The reason why the progress is so fast is all because of someone's game world, where he has enough time to do research and development. This is how Tony Stark upgraded his steel battlesuit to its current level, which is now comparable to the suit he wore during Infinity War. The two began to spar. The outcome of this competition will determine the ownership of TIE particles. Jane Foster, Daisy Lewis, and a certain trap man, they took the detection equipment all the way to the gravitational anomaly point. At this place, Jane Foster accidentally fell into the gravitational field, was sucked into the underground of Wat Alheim, and landed at the 2 square boulders that sealed the TIE particles. TIE particles penetrated Jane Foster's body. When Tony Stark and Stephen Strange found out during the sparring session, it was already too late. The two hurriedly flew here and looked at Jane Foster, who was unconscious on the ground. The two of them looked at each other in silence. After a while, Tony asked Stephen, "Can your magic remove the TIE particles that entered her body?" "I can't do it, but my teacher can definitely do it," Stephen Strange said with certainty. "Then as soon as possible, if TIE particles appear in the world, it will be bad if they are located on the Earth by the Dark Elves." "Good." Tony Stark picks up Jane Foster. Stephen Strange opens the portal to Camartage. A quarter of an hour later, they meet the Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One. Tony Stark came here and looked at the yellow-robed woman in front of him curiously. She looked very kind, like an old man who was good at keeping good health. Is this the person who taught Stephen Strange magic? Ancient One magician, TIE particles entered this girl's body, and that thing may attract the prying eyes of aliens. Stephen Strange got straight to the point. The TIE particles in her body are actually reality gem, which is the same treasure as the Eye of Agamotto. Ancient One spoke slowly. Tony Stark was confused. He didn't know what the Eye of Agamotto was, so he didn't understand what a treasure equal to the Eye of Agamotto meant. Stephen Strange does. The one in Eye of Agamotto is time gem. Treasures equivalent to that thing can only be infinite gems. You mean TIE particles are infinite gems? Stephen Strange's pupils wrinkled. The Ancient One looked at the unconscious Jane Foster and said to the two of them, "Yes, it is dangerous. Both the person who uses it and the person affected by it are equally dangerous." After Ancient One finished speaking, he raised his hand and cast a spell, taking in the TIE particles from Jane Foster's body. The dark red liquid energy gathered in the hands of Ancient One and gradually turned into a dark red gem. The Ancient One also used unknown means to cut off Malekith, the king of the Dark Elves, from its induction. The reality gem is a magical treasure. The Ancient One plans to keep it and make a magic weapon that can drive it as the foundation of Camartage. Although Ancient One has begun planning for retirement, it would be good to leave something more for Camartage before retiring. Even if she knew that leaving this thing behind might cause a lot of trouble, trouble would always come one after another, and she didn't care about one or two more. Ancient One believes that Strange's progress is enough to cope with everything in the future. Chapter 46. Evan and others woke up one after another from their slumber in the metamorphosis stage. The essence of life of the three people has undergone some kind of qualitative change. In this state, they can be regarded as immortals or gods. Gods like them are different from the gods in the Marvel world. If we only compare their strength, they are still far behind the gods of the universe, but close to the mythical Heavenly Father. Strength, agility, mental power, soul power, and 5 senses have all been greatly improved, and it is an all-round improvement with no shortcomings. The energy in the body is no longer pure magic power and chi. This new energy did not have an accurate name. Evan was too lazy to give it a new name, so he simply and crudely named it high magic, or magic for short. The power of the skills performed with this kind of magic power will change qualitatively. For example, the original blazing fireball is a 3-meter diameter fireball rolling on the ground. If you cast it now, although the size of the fireball will not become larger, the temperature will be higher and it will last longer, almost an hour. Within an hour, Evan can control the flaming fireball to roll around and cause great damage. Another example is Advanced Phantom. The effect of the original version is to create a phantom that will not disappear unless it is removed. Now, the created phantom is no longer a phantom, but a phantom with quality, referred to as mass phantom. This kind of phantom can be seen and touched, but it can only exert 1/10 of the strength of the original body. The conjuration and evocation spells that the advanced shadow conjuration can simulate are no longer limited to spells of the 6th and lower rings, but can already be simulated up to the 9th level. From this aspect alone, Evan's strength has already undergone an absolute qualitative change. Wanda and Gwen have also improved a lot, especially Wanda. Wanda's soul and heart have become stronger, and the upper limit of her sanity has been greatly raised. The origin magic power given to her by Sithorn can no longer penetrate her heart, but can be used by her to a greater extent at the minimum cost. Yes, now Wanda has officially changed her job to Scarlet Witch and can transform into Scarlet Witch form at any time. Her qualitatively changed skills have made her as powerful as Doctor Strange too, even without the blessing of knowledge from the Dark Book. She in the pluralistic era. If Wanda is Blacken in this state, her strength can be doubled. After all, Blacken is 3 times stronger. It is true that it has undergone multiple transformations. True final boss template. As the saying goes, good things come in pairs. The 3 people who came out of the game left the dark dungeon and returned home to the game public area. Several people learned from Abigail that their spaceship had been completed. Several people came to the spacecraft construction factory below. The internal space of this factory is very large, and the NPC technical workers who were supposed to work here have disappeared because of the completion of the spacecraft. When they came here, they could see huge amounts of streamlined space battleships in pure black parked in the center of the factory. It is 3,600 meters long, 700 meters wide, and 120 meters high. It is much larger than the S.H.I.E.L.D space carrier. It is a complete behemoth. Its shape also has a very sci-fi feel. There are many weapons on top of the spacecraft, including various types of blaster beam muzzles. These weapons are taken over and controlled by the spacecraft AI and can accurately lock onto approaching enemies. There are also 2 high-power main guns at the front of the battleship. When fully charged, the power of a single fire is comparable to the explosion of an atomic bomb. But to be honest, in the eyes of advanced interstellar civilizations, these weapons are very backward weapon technologies. There is no way to install an outdated weapon system, because the technology they obtained is already backward. But this kind of thing also depends on who you compare it with. If you compare it with today's Earth technology, it is still very impressive. In addition to the weapon system, the spacecraft is also equipped with anti-gravity engines, force field shield generators, cellular wormhole generators, sublight engines, and conventional engines. In addition, there are laser sterilization and sterilization transition chambers, food synthesis equipment, holographic projection equipment, interstellar communication equipment, supercomputers, intelligent AI programs. Abigail took the 3 of them onto the battleship and began to tour the interior. The interior space is divided into many areas. Dormitory area, canteen area, entertainment area, laboratory, bridge, communication room, holographic environment simulation room, cab, various functional offices, etc. It can accommodate 10,000 people to live and work inside. That's great. Gwen was excited. It will be our vehicle from now on, but after that, we have to find time to enchant the spaceship. For example, if you enchant with advanced shape-shifting, you can make the spaceship grow larger and smaller. When it shrinks, it is easier to carry with you. It can also be enchanted with space magic to keep the internal space volume unchanged when the spacecraft shrinks. Imagine that we enter the spacecraft, then shrink the spacecraft to a palm-sized spacecraft model, and fly it inside. Flight. Although the prospect you described is very good, the spaceship is so big, enchanting it is also a big project. How long will it take to complete the enchanting? We can completely hand over some repetitive tasks in the enchantment project to robots. Abigail, later you can use the factory here to produce some robots to serve as internal staff of our battleship. Okay, Father. Abigail accepted the order, left the spacecraft, and went to produce similar species for herself. As Evan's robot, Abigail knew exactly what Evan wanted, and decided to produce 1,000 beauty robots first. After visiting the spaceship, the 3 of them exited the game world and returned to the real world. 2.5 months have passed since they entered the game world and returned to the real world. But they spent a long time in the game copy world. Although it has only been 2.5 months here, it feels like a lifetime has passed. Wanda looked at this home. It should be a very familiar place, but now it gave her the feeling of a place that has changed forever. Gwen missed her parents a little, so as soon as she came back, she said goodbye to Evan and Wanda and went home. On her way home, Gwen contacted the stand-in robot that had been playing her, and met with the stand-in robot, and learned about what happened during this period through the other person. After that, she put the stand-in robot into the game world, and she went home. Chapter 47. Because the TIE particles were not taken to Asgard, the Dark Elves did not invade Asgard. The fairy queen Frigga is still alive and well, but her retirement plan of suspended animation was aborted. I'm afraid Frigga will never find a better opportunity until Odin dies. But then again, there is no need for her to leave when Odin dies in the future. Without the Dark Elf invasion, Loki is still in Asgard's prison, and is now trying to figure out how to escape. On this day, Evan quietly came to Asgard. He came here to attract a few more players to his game world. Using invisibility and teleportation along the way, he avoided all monitoring and alarm trigger points, easily sneaked into the Asgard prison, and appeared in front of Loki's cell door. At the moment, Loki looked a little decadent. "Who are you?" Loki looked at the young man outside the cell. The other party was very young, probably around 18 or 19 years old by visual inspection. Loki didn't know the other person, but judging from the other person's clothing style, he shouldn't be from Asgard. Not being from Asgard, but being able to appear in Asgard's prison, at least proves that the other party has great abilities. "I'm the one who's here to change your destiny." As Evan spoke, he used space magic combined with conjuration spells to cast a coma spell on Loki through the energy shield of the cell. Loki didn't expect that the other party would attack suddenly, and without any precautions, he was hit and passed out. Evan reached out his hand, and a space cave opened in front of him that connected to the inside of the cell. His hand reached in and touched Loki's shoulder, successfully marking him as a player. After doing this, Evan left Asgard's prison. He used shape-shifting to transform himself into the style of an Asgardian, that is, the style of a strong Nordic man. Then he searched around Asgard and found Thor. Thor was bragging with the three warriors and Sif at the moment. "Hey, Prince Thor, I got some good wine, would you like to try it?" Evan walked over. Several people looked around and found that it was someone they didn't recognize. But Asgard is not young either. They can't know everyone, so they don't find it strange. Hearing that there was good wine, several people came over. Evan took out a lot of Earth's specialty wine from the dark pocket. "Can you do magic? Why haven't I seen you before?" Sif took a bottle of wine from Evan's hand. "Maybe it's because I usually focus on studying magic and keep a low profile." Evan's lie was not clever, but the people in front of him were not as intelligent as Loki, and they had no intention of getting to the bottom of it. Their attention already attracted by the wine Evan brought out. Several people sat on the ground and started drinking. Evan, who is well versed in the art of talking to people and talking to ghosts, soon became mingled with a few people, arm in arms, drinking, and smashing bottles. He sounded so bold when drinking. The wine that he actually drank into his stomach was all digested by him using the immortal thief of Lyoku, and he didn't feel drunk at all. Taking this opportunity, Evan marked Thor as a player. The fairy queen Frigga in Fence Errol, the palace of Sea of Fog, felt something in her heart. Her eyes bloomed with the brilliance of magic. From a distance, she saw Evan drinking with Thor and others arm in arm. Although Evan used the shape-shifting technique and looked like another person, the shape-shifting technique used by the other party was taught by her, so she could tell at a glance that the guy was not an Asgardian, but her student evangelist. Why did he run away to Asgard again? He must be too brave. Frigga was helpless. What made Frigga even more helpless was that half a day later, Evan, who was separated from Thor and the others, slipped into the palace of Sea of Mist and came to her. "Teacher, long time no see." Evan greeted Frigga. Judging from her appearance, Frigga is a middle-aged woman who still retains her charm. But considering that the other party is a witch, the other party's appearance can change at any time, and the middle-aged appearance may be just intentional. If necessary, the other party can use magic to restore the youthful appearance at any time. "When did you discover my identity?" Frigga was slightly surprised. When she taught Evan magic, she used the personification instead of the body. But now, Evan can reveal her identity. "My perception has always been very good. When I first met your mates, I already discovered that they were not real. I didn't realize what this meant at the time. It was not until later that Thor told me that some of my magic it's very similar to the magic her mother often uses." Evan's words were half-truths. "You came here to find me, shouldn't it just be to tell me that you have found out that I am your teacher? I think you will be bored here in Asgard, and I have created a game world where time flows relatively fast. Calculated in Midgard time, 1 year in the game world will only pass 1 day in Midgard time. Before, I have invited Loki and Thor to join, and I would also like to invite you to join in, so that it can also add some fun to your boring life." Evan explained his purpose. Today, Evan's strength is almost that of the mythical level Godfather. Although he is still not as good as Odin and Ancient One, the gap between them is not as big as imagined, so there is no need to hide some things, as long as they don't let others know. Just have your own super game development system. Frigga knew about the game that Evan was talking about. When her incarnation of Gaina was teaching Evan and others, she heard Wanda and Gwen talk about that game from their chat, but she didn't pay too much attention to it. But now Frigga became a little more interested. Take me in and have a look. Good. Evan stepped forward and extended his hand to Frigga. Frigga put her hand on Evan's. In the next moment, the two people disappeared from the place and arrived in the game world. The place the two arrived was not Evan's home in the game world, but the villa assigned by the game to new players. Under Evan's introduction, Frigga quickly understood all the settings of this game world. Are these dungeons based on real-life stories? Frigga looked at THOR1 and THOR2 in the dungeon list and suddenly wanted to know the stories in these two dungeons. But in order to enter these two dungeons, you must first clear the previous dungeon. If you want to enter the dungeon, it's best to change into Midgard-style clothing so that the NPCs inside won't feel strange when they see you. Evan reminded. Chapter 48. Asgard time. That night, Loki and Thor are drawn into the game world. Someone used the GM authority to assign the two brothers to the same newborn villa. They woke up in the same bed and saw each other next to them, both looking like they had eaten a fly. Loki, why are you sleeping next to me? Rather than dwell on this problem, let's figure out where this place is first. Loki was speechless. Only then did Thor realize that he was not where he was, but in a strange place. The style here looks like somewhere in Midgard? Loki's attention was attracted by the game panel in his field of vision. Through this game panel, he quickly figured out the situation. Loki couldn't help but think of the guy he met in prison before. This may have been done by the other party. Loki used magic to check his body and confirmed that he entered here with his body, not his consciousness. Interesting. The corners of Loki's mouth turned up in an evil arc. He ignored the worrying Thor and went straight to the bathroom of the villa. He tidied up his appearance here, then went back to the bedroom to change into clean and tidy new clothes, regaining Loki's elegance. Thor also gradually understood the situation in this place and believed that it was probably a virtual reality world. Although he didn't know how he got here, Thor, who was skilled in art and bold, did not panic. When Thor saw Iron Man, Avengers Alliance and even his own story copy in the dungeon list, he immediately became interested and clicked on the first dungeon directly. After Thor disappeared, Loki tried to walk outside the villa, but was prompted by the game system that he must complete the first instance before he could go out. He shrugged and clicked on the first copy. Most of Asgard has passed since Frigga entered the game world. Frigga also spent several years in the game world's dungeons, and went through all the dungeons in the dungeon list except Doctor Strange. Which one of these dungeons she cares about most is definitely THOR1 and THOR2. After all, they are plot dungeons with her son as the protagonist. Through these two copies, she learned the story of the original timeline. In the original timeline, she would die at the hands of Malekith, the Lord of the Dark Elves. But in today's new timeline, the Dark Elves didn't invade Asgard at all. Frigga could probably guess the reason. Mostly related to this game. Once the future is known, it may be changed. Today is the changed future. She guessed that because of the spoilers of this game, the TIE particles had been obtained by people on Earth, and it didn't matter who got them. Frigga exited the copy and sat in the villa in the public area thoughtfully. At this time, Evan opened the door and walked in. Seeing him coming, Frigga asked, "Can you see further into the future?" "The future has changed," Evan said. "I'm talking about the future of the original timeline." "Abel. I wonder what will happen to Asgard in the future. All I can say is, it didn't end well." Evan didn't want to spoil the story verbally. Spoilers or something, it's more interesting to use the game as a spoiler. "Is that so?" Frigga didn't ask again. In fact, Frigga's feelings for Asgard are not deep. After all, she was snatched away by Odin to be the Lady of the Stronghold. Under this premise, she still has a lot of feelings. The only sons she cares about are Thor and Loki. Even though the latter was adopted, she treats them as her own sons. As for Asgard's final fate, she really didn't care much. "Are you going to meet Wanda and Gwen?" Evan changed the subject. "Okay, take me to meet them." Evan took Frigga to his house next door. At the moment Wanda and Gwen are also online, and are training the robots produced by Abigail Dorothy below their home in the game world to make them qualified enchantment workers. Evan and Frigga came here. Frigga was surprised that there was actually a battleship here. From her perspective, she could tell that this was a real warship, not something made up in a game. It was created by Wanda, Gwen and I. Now it just needs the enchanting project to be officially completed. While talking, the two walked over to Wanda and Gwen. Wanda and Gwen were both surprised when they saw who the person next to Evan was. Having cleared the Thor 2 copy, they naturally recognize Frigga. They just didn't expect that Evan would kidnap Frigga back. The two of them still don't know that Frigga is actually Gaina's true form. It was only now that Evan announced the truth to the two of them in front of Frigga. Only then did the two of them know that it was not Gia who taught them magic knowledge, but Frigga. After figuring this out, the two immediately greeted Frigga. After that, everyone sat together and chatted. After chatting for a while, Frigga asked how they planned to enchant the ship. Evan told her about his enchantment plan and took out the enchantment engineering drawings he drew. Frigga took it and looked at it, nodded and said, "Your enchantment project is fine, but the efficiency of enchantment is not high. You can do this." She began to guide them and modify the enchantment engineering drawings. After some modifications, the workload of the enchanting project became smaller, but the final effect that could be achieved was stronger. There are even some spaces left for other enchantments, such as automatically repairing broken spaceships, reducing the weight of the spacecraft, strengthening the outer shell of the spacecraft, etc. This set of drawings was changed in many ways by Frigga. While she was making modifications, she was also explaining what to do to the beautiful robots around her. These robots are all simulation robots produced by Abigail, and they all look like beauties with great figures. Under Frigga's guidance, the beauty robot began its work, and the enchantment project began. Estimated operation time is 2 months. It doesn't take long. By the time it gets dark outside, where time flows faster, the enchantment project on the spacecraft will be almost complete. Chapter 49. Evan proposed to Frigga that he wanted to learn the magic of incarnation. He has always been greedy for this magic, not that he wants to learn it himself. He is not big enough to get duplication for himself, he just wants Wanda and Gwen to learn this magic. In this way, wives can become a large group of wives. Wanda and Gwen, who knew Evan very well, saw that Evan wanted Frigga to teach him this spell, but they couldn't figure out the other person's thoughts, so they immediately glared at the guy angrily. Frigga could probably guess what Evan was thinking. Although she was a little speechless, she still nodded in agreement and began to teach them. Evan only memorized the relevant knowledge of this magic and did not practice it. Wanda and Gwen are studying seriously. The magic of personality incarnation is obviously a duplication spell that is more useful than robot stand-ins. As long as they can learn it, they will no longer need robots as stand-ins in the future. They can completely separate their personalities with this spell. Incarnate as a substitute. Wanda, who has the best magic ability, learned it quickly. Wanda tries to activate the spell. 12 Wanda slowly emerged around her. Because they are personal incarnations, they are all duplications with self-personality and consciousness, and they represent different aspects of Wanda. Cheerful Wanda, angry Wanda, jealous Wanda, arrogant Wanda, innocent Wanda, bookish Wanda, beauty-loving Wanda, lustful Wanda. Among them, as soon as the lustful Wanda appeared, she walked up to Evan and took the initiative to get into his arms. Wanda, who is full of bookishness, took out a magic book from her dark pocket, sat down by herself and began to study, full of academic aura. The cheerful Wanda ran to Frigga and chatted with her. The arrogant Wanda looked at people through her nostrils. She looked at Evan as if she was looking at something dirty, a look of disgust. The innocent Wanda looked around curiously. The jealous Wanda looked at Gwen with resentful eyes, as if she was not very willing to share someone with Gwen. The scene is breathtaking. Gwen felt uncomfortable being stared at by jealous Wanda, and she said to her real body Wanda, "Can you stop letting your avatar stare at me?" With Wanda's thoughts in mind, the jealous Wanda reluctantly stopped staring at Gwen. No matter what Wanda's character is, they all like Evan. Even the arrogant Wanda only dislikes the fact that the other person has a harem, not the other person himself. Evan was so happy. Seeing Evan's happiness, Gwen and Wanda had a strong desire to complain. That night, Evan was very happy. The next day, dawn. Frigga logged off and returned to Asgard. The enchantment project of the spaceship has also been completed. Evan, Wanda, and Gwen boarded the spacecraft and came to the cockpit. Under Evan's control, this behemoth-like spacecraft began to slowly shrink, and soon became smaller than a particle of dust. Even at close range, it is difficult to see it. Although the battleship has shrunk, the internal space has not. If people stay inside and do not observe the outside world, they will not feel that the spacecraft has shrunk. The battleship left the game world and descended into the outside world. Evan and others drove this battleship and flew around in the Earth's atmosphere. Because the size of the battleship has been reduced to a very small size, no equipment on Earth can observe the existence of this battleship. The performance of the reduced warship is not reduced, and it can still fly as fast as it should. I have to say that combining magic and science is really a good idea. Only in this way can we produce a warship that can be called a spectacle even with insufficient science and technology. While Evan and others were flying around in battleships, Thor and Loki in the game world successively cleared all copies except Doctor Strange 1. What concerned them most was the copy of Thor 2. Although the story of Thor 2 did not happen in reality, it is undoubtedly showing a possibility based on the premise that this game world does not exist. Both brothers are thankful that this game exists, otherwise their mother might be dead. Evan's battleship flew out of the Earth's atmosphere and arrived in geosynchronous orbit. Inside the battleship, in the cockpit. We should give our spaceship a more powerful name. Gwen suggested. What do you think of the Scarlet Witch? Wanda said. It's not that good. It's better to call it Ghost Spider. Gwen rejected it without thinking. The spider sounds too ugly, and our battleship doesn't look like a spider either. Wanda complained. The two looked towards Evan, wanting to hear his opinion. According to the special characteristics of our spaceship, we can live in the spacecraft in the future. We only need to bind a directional magic teleportation point to the spacecraft, and we can return to the spacecraft anytime and anywhere. To sum up, let's call it home. Go ahead. Evan said his suggestion. The two women thought for a while and felt that the name was very meaningful. They nodded and approved the name. Are you going to live in a battleship? Then you need to decorate this place properly. Wanda said expectantly. It does need a good renovation, but before that, let's go see the major planets in the solar system. The battleship set sail. With one jump, the battleship had arrived next to Venus from the Earth's synchronous orbit. Venus, also known as Venus, is a good name, but the environment here is completely opposite to what the name describes. It is a place with an environment worse than hell. The home ship spacecraft opened its protective cover and penetrated into the thick atmosphere of Venus. The battleship gradually approached the surface. The surface temperature of Venus is very high, and the terrible greenhouse effect turns it into a purgatory. In some areas, it is even raining sulfuric acid. The pressure of the atmosphere is also much higher than that of the Earth. Ordinary people can't survive in such a place. Once exposed to such an environment, they may not be able to survive for 10 seconds before rushing to the street. After that, the three of them drove the battleship home and visited several major planets in the solar system, which was a great eye-opener. Chapter 50. The USS Home battleship shrank to the size of a mote file, hovering and floating in Evan's home with a volume that was invisible to the naked eye. Wanda is in the leisure and entertainment area inside the battleship, using the computer here to surf the internet and socialize on the internet. She also has many netizens. Evan and Gwen came to the laboratory inside the battleship. This laboratory is very spacious and contains many high-tech equipment that can be used to assist scientific research. As a top student, Gwen liked it very much and decided to do scientific research here in the future, not just scientific experiments, but also magic experiments. Now Gwen is a talent with a combination of magic and science. It is a great experience to have a laboratory of your own in reality, especially if the laboratory is on your own battleship. The experience is even better. I'm going to do an experiment here. Evan said. What experiment? Use advanced shadow conjuration to simulate the 9-level spell of the conjuration system, the alien portal. After hearing what Evan said, Gwen also became interested. She is also curious about other worlds. I just don't know what kind of alien world the alien portal can connect to. Is it other planets, or parallel time and space? Then let's get started, I'm quite looking forward to it. Gwen said. Evan nodded. He cast an advanced shadow spell. The shadows around the laboratory gathered in front of Evan, gradually forming a shadow-shaped door. There are mysterious runes and lines on the door, which outlines an extremely complex and mysterious pattern. Evan stepped forward, pressed one of his hands on the door, closed his eyes and started sensing. In an instant, Evan felt the Marvel multi-universe on a larger scale. Including different dimensions, parallel time and space, hyperspace, and quantum space. Evan increases magic output. As the magic power flows out like a flood, Evan can perceive a wider range from a wide area level. The wide area perception formed by the gate to another world cannot perceive specific details, and can only be used to perceive the world originally. Gradually, Evan perceived beyond the Marvel multi-universe. Beyond the multi-universe is the omnipotent universe. In the omnipotent universe, there are countless multi-universes. Each world within a multi-universe has different rules. But not many can be perceived by Evan. To be precise, Evan can only feel several multi-universes adjacent to the Marvel multi-universe. One of them is surrounded by a crystal wall, which looks somewhat similar to the origin wall in the DC series of stories. Maybe the DC multi-universe is there. Evan tried to spread perception into it. As long as perception can spread, otherworldly portals can be connected. It is said that the DC origin wall was the work of the Origin Judge and was used to seal the creation god Perpetua. That wall of origin has absolute sealing power over the creatures born in the DC multi-universe. But it does not have such strong constraints on the power outside the origin wall. In the process of penetrating the origin wall, Evan's perception suddenly found that the magic power consumption in his body accelerated further and was almost about to bottom out. "Gwen, infuse me with magic, quickly." Oh! Gwen hurriedly ran behind Evan, put her hand on Evan's back, and instilled her magic into Evan. After a while, Evan's perception power successfully penetrated the origin wall and felt the DC multi-universe 10,000 sky instruments. He found a special DC universe from the DC Wan Tianyi, and then pushed open the alien portal in front of him without any hesitation. The door was opened, revealing the environment on the other side. Evan began to sweat on his forehead, because keeping this door open would consume a huge amount of his magic power at all times, which was even more exaggerated than when perception penetrated the origin wall. Even if he and Gwen's magic powers were combined, they couldn't keep the alien portal open for more than 10 seconds. Evan gritted his teeth, waved his hand and cast a spell, leaving a real phantom in place, then picked up Gwen and plunged into the door. The moment you get in, the door automatically closes and gradually disappears. 2 hours later, Wanda walked out of the entertainment room and asked a beauty robot in the corridor, "Where are Evan and Gwen?" "Go back to Sir, they are in the laboratory." "I see." Wanda walked towards the laboratory. Speaking of which, the beautiful robots in this battleship call Wanda and Gwen Sir, and call Evan Captain. Only Abigail calls them different. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.